In this cutthroat magic academy, a single glance is enough to spark a duel. The tension is suffocating and the competition is absolutely insane. Therefore, when Sun Yu scoffed and told his classmate that her ice magic lacked any real chill, it wasn't just an insult, it was a declaration of war. The atmosphere grew heavy, charging with mana. Sun Yu wasn't looking for romance, he was excited to test his limits. As the tension peaked, his senior attacked. A barrage of glacial bullets rained down, yet Sun Yu weaved through them like a phantom, effortlessly mocking her lethal strikes with every step. Enraged by his casual dodging, she lost her temper. Mana flared as she launched a colossal ice spear directly at his face. Sun Yu had a split second to react. He vanished from her sight. She stood frozen, stunned by his terrifying agility. She couldn't comprehend how he moved faster than her eyes could follow. He had completely evaded her ultimate spell. Desperate, she gathered swirling mana in her palm, a rotating sphere of destruction intended to trap him. "You can't win by just running away," she screamed. That is when Sun Yu stopped retreating. He charged like a bullet, finally launching his counterattack. Their energies collided in a deafening boom. Sun Yu's raw power completely shattered her defense, his fist stopping mere millimeters from impact. He spared her beautiful face from permanent ruin. But make no mistake, Sun Yu wasn't always this godlike warrior. Originally, he was a transmigrator from Earth. He lived quietly, placing all his faith in the prophecy that the hero would save this realm. He did everything to survive until he could return home. But fate is cruel. The legendary hero failed, defeated, humiliated, and butchered in battle. With the hero's death, the fantasy world began to crumble. Reality itself tore apart, withering into nothingness like burning paper. A Crimson System window flashed, main story failed. The world didn't just end, it was forced to reboot because of the catastrophic failure. Before Sun Yu could process the horror, his reality shattered. He gasped, waking up not in the void but on a familiar shaking bus. Outside the window stood the majestic Magic Academy. Sun Yu's eyes widened as the impossible truth dawned on him. He had regressed 7 years into the past. He wasn't just a reader anymore. He was a player with a second chance at life. But a dark question haunted him. The hero's death was never part of the original novel. That tragedy should not have happened. In the original text, the hero survives and defeats the final boss. The hero's death meant the timeline was already corrupted. A massive divergence had occurred and only he knew. Sun Yu wondered if he failed, would the world delete itself again? Would it force another reset? No. This time he was determined. He would not just watch. He would tell the protagonist to step aside. He would play an active role to secure a new ending. To do that, he needed allies. He needed to interact with the key characters immediately. He tried to strike up a conversation with a glamorous female student. But instead of a warm welcome, he was met with a gaze colder than ice. Disgust radiated from her. She looked at him like he was a bug trying to fly with eagles, even though they had never met before. His confidence vanished into thin air. She was annoyed simply because he dared to breathe in her direction. Sun Yu was shut down instantly. She denied his existence and demanded he never look at her again. Her words struck harder than any magical bullet, piercing his pride. Sun Yu realized the bitter truth changing the hearts of the main cast would be a legendary quest on its own. Then the assembly began. The elite class representatives took the stage. 3 legends stepped forward. First was Lee Se-in, the shining prodigy and second-year genius. As the personal disciple of the Grand Master, his fame was cemented in history before the main story even started. Sun Yu knew exactly who he was, a character destined for god-tier power levels. Next was the second representative, a crimson-haired beauty. She looked like a fairy, but don't be fooled. She was no angel. Sun Yu knew that behind that face was a terrifying cunning. Even her smile was a calculated political move. Finally, the third representative, the top-ranked senior who hadn't lost his title in 3 years. The quintessential glasses-wearing strategist. But this was the anomaly. Sun Yu had 0 data on him from the original novel. Perhaps he was a character who never appeared in the main plot. As the elites took their oaths, Sun Yu noticed something else. The girl sitting next to him was seething with jealousy. She was furious that she wasn't on that stage. Sun Yu saw an opening. He leaned in with a teasing comment. She took the bait instantly, her ego flaring up like dry tinder at his words. She demanded an explanation. After a moment of thought, our boy activated his master flirt skill tree, using the 9 glances technique. He loudly declared that she was far superior to the representatives on stage. She looked at him like he was a deranged pervert. She assumed he was clueless about magic levels. Sun Yu played along, hiding his true knowledge behind a mask of innocence. "I just have a sharp eye for talent," he lied smoothly. But it seemed his trump card was backfiring spectacularly. Instead of being flattered, she was boiling with rage. His outrageous compliments were only fueling her irritation. He needed to change tactics immediately. Flattery failed. He decided to drop a truth bomb. "You've been agonizing over your career path, haven't you?" That froze her. It was secret information that only a regressor would know. The accuracy of his words shook her. She rushed back, staring at him with suspicion. "Who are you?" she threatened, eyes narrowing. "Don't ever speak to me again." She stormed off, leaving him alone in the dust. Sun Yu sighed, realizing that being a charming prince was harder than the novels made it look. One thought consumed his mind. In the past, he had lost everything. But this time, he would do it right. A new semester at the Magic Academy meant a fresh start, beginning with the placement test. Judgment Day arrived immediately. This assessment wasn't just a simple test, it was the crucible that would decide the hierarchy of the entire school. The pressure was suffocating, crushing down on every single student. It was time to unleash their powers before the entire academy. While panic seized, the hearts of the weak chaos began to brew. But amidst the trembling crowd, our main character stood apart. Sun Yu radiated absolute conviction. He had his sights set on the summit. He would claim a spot in the top 10 rankings of the year. After all, the blessings from his past life were his secret weapon. This was his golden ticket to Class B, and he refused to let it slip. He was done living as a faceless extra in front of these ignorant masses. It was time for his grand entrance. The proficiency test kicked off with a bang. The first mage stepped forward, unleashing a torrential barrage of magical bullets to judge the academy's strength. Shards of ice pierced through the target dummies with lethal precision. The audience watched in awe as she effortlessly cleared the assessment. A truly spectacular performance. It was to be expected. She was the apex predator, the top student of her year. Following her lead, the rest of the 52nd cohort was summoned, one by one. Next on the list was a figure of intimidating beauty. She walked with the grace of a queen and the cold gaze of a tyrant. This was the elite who looked down on everyone else. This was the genius mentioned earlier. She unleashed a firestorm that shook the very ground. The explosion of mana left the other students trembling in shock. This power was leagues beyond their wildest imagination. To be called a professional at her age was an understatement. Her mana reserves were monstrous. If Selin pushed her limits, the destruction would be catastrophic. She was the real deal, a prodigy among prodigies. However, Yuara refused to be outshone. She held her ground as a living legend in the making. A swordswoman took the stage, her presence sharp as a razor. In a blink, she erupted forward. She moved like a streak of lightning, faster than the eye could follow. Steel sang as the targets were shredded into oblivion. Every strike was fatal. Every cut reduced the dummies to dust. The speed of her blade was terrifying, leaving even Yuara impressed. Even the instructors were left speechless. While she was a master of the blade, Selin still held the title of a professional mage. The rivalry between them was palpable. That was the mountain he had to climb. Living in such colossal shadows would break a lesser man. But now the stage was finally clearing for the main event. It was finally Sun Yu's turn. When the announcer called his name, adrenaline surged through his veins. He was ready to crash this party and show the world his true strength. The judges glanced at their files with disinterested eyes. To them, he was just a dull, insignificant background character with zero prospects. The data said he was trash. His specialization was supposed to be basic magic enhancement. Yet he walked onto the field empty-handed, defying all standard protocols. The crowd murmured in confusion. Sun Yu focused veins bulging as he channeled his energy. Pure magic began to materialize in his palms. The instructor, who had dismissed him as mediocre, suddenly leaned forward. His style had completely evolved. Eyes widened in disbelief as the young man manipulated the raw energy. This was a technique that shouldn't exist, yet something from a legend. It was a feat similar to the fourth Hokage's signature move. He contained the volatile magic within his grasp. He had successfully achieved the first stage of materialization. The onlookers were stunned. He was compressing pure mana for absolute dominance. Now came the critical phase. Liberation. This was a forbidden art of concretization, a high-tier skill that only battle-hardened archmages dared to use in combat. Seeing a student attempt, it was insanity. Even Yuara and Selin watched with bated breath. It was inconceivable that a mere second-year student could possess such profound technical mastery. Sun Yu aimed to obliterate the captain dummy in a single glorious strike. He prepared to blow them away with a symphony of destruction. But fate is a cruel mistress. Whether by curse or plot, disaster struck. The attack sizzled and vanished inches from the target's core. A deafening silence fell, followed by the roar of the crowd. Laughter erupted like a volcano. They mocked his lack of mana, ridiculing his arrogance. He had acted like a king only to fall like a jester. He had one shot at glory and he missed. He had completely destroyed his reputation. But suddenly the world shimmered. A series of blue system windows materialized before his eyes. Sun Yu stared in shock. Why hadn't this damned system appeared sooner? It could have saved him from this humiliation. The scene shifted, as our defeated hero retreated to the solitude of his dormitory. Why did the system awaken at that precise moment of failure? It made no sense. Was this a glitch in the timeline? A deviation from the original story? A notification pinged softly. It announced the unlocking of outsider privileges. This was the catalyst that would change his destiny forever. For regressing 7 years, he was awarded 3,000 points. But the system had a cruel sense of humor. It bestowed upon him the title of Gifted Clown. How tragic. It was practically telling him to embrace his life as a joke, a complete buffoon. But seeing the massive pile of points, Sun Yu became glued to the glowing screen. The crowd was still laughing at him, but he didn't care. Let them laugh. Now every student in the academy knew his face. His identity was etched into their minds. He could no longer pretend to be an invisible mob character. Even Selin, the main protagonist, had her eyes on him now. The gears of fate were turning. Her attention was a key item in itself. If she kept watching him, he could farm thousands of points. In a twisted way, Sun Yu had struck gold. 10,000 points accumulated in the blink of an eye. Now it was time to spend. He needed to unlock the outsider privilege, a skill that defied the laws of this world. This talent was reserved for those cast out by society. And right now, Sun Yu was the perfect candidate. He was the only one worthy of this cursed power. Points were generated through achievements and notoriety. Simply put, the more famous or infamous he became, the stronger he would get. Fame was his fuel. Climbing the rankings meant earning massive rewards. But the true game-changer of the outsider privilege was the ability to access the dimensional store. This changed everything. This god-tier system allowed him to purchase items from other worlds. Infinite energy and legendary artifacts were now just a transaction away. He was like a parasite, feeding on attention. Sun Yu grinned at his point total, even as the memory of the crowd laughing in his face stung. They looked at him like he was trash. What a fool he had been. In the chaos of regression, Sun Yu had completely forgotten a crucial detail. His current mana capacity was pathetically low. He had never been the center of attention like this. Even in his past life, he was invisible. But now, he was earning bonus points thanks to his spectacular failure. The incident was over, but the real challenge had just begun. To assess his standing, he summoned his status window. The holographic log flickered into existence. Unfortunately, his Sss-Rank score, it was completely reset. Gone. Just like that, he was back to 0 exactly as he was in his previous life. Annoyance bubbled up, but Sun Yu forced a smirk. This wasn't a tragedy, it was a chance to regroup. It was the perfect opportunity to invest everything into a wisdom build, leveraging the knowledge he had hoarded from his past life. In the world of this novel, 4 great systems governed magic. The Mage system was absolute enhancement manifestation support, and finally, the prestigious summoning. Enhancement boosted raw power and weapon durability. It was the go-to for physical fitness buffs and tanks. Manifestation, on the other hand, was the concrete embodiment of magic, shaping reality and releasing it in a flashy style. It was traditional, yet effective. Summoning and support were mainly for showing off unique creatures and extraordinary abilities. Overall, Sun Yu had a preference. He wanted to look cool while chanting spells, not just swing a sword. But according to the current meta, he had to prioritize. He needed to upgrade his mana stats immediately. However, the system suddenly pinged with a notification. Over 300 people had witnessed his earlier prank. The system's logic was simple. The more eyes on him, the more impressive the feat, and the more points he earned. Performing clown, acts on stage. It wasn't too bad if it paid the bills. Young people might think he was crazy, but he had struck gold by pulling off that stunt. The counter jumped to 400, far exceeding the number of students in the entire school. Fearing the worst, Sun Yu checked the broadcast. He browsed YouTube and realized the magnitude of what had happened. Everything had been live-streamed. While the youth were mocking him, this was an absolute success. Fame was fame, even if they were making fun of him. Anyway, the point. Score was something to be proud of. A greedy thought crossed his mind. Could he earn a little extra? Transforming into a keyboard warrior, Sun Yu tapped the buttons frantically. He believed he could manufacture another spectacle. He had to keep the momentum going. The next day, everyone in the academy began scrutinizing him the moment he walked in. Whispers filled the air, asking if he was the lunatic from yesterday. Last night, Sun Yu had worked his body to the bone. Thanks to the surge in attention, he had earned 5,000 points. Stepping into the classroom, he saw that everyone had taken their seats. Everyone except him. Sun Yu was the center of attention. Suddenly, a blond guy approached. He sneered, calling Sun Yu a hooligan. But instead of fighting, Sun Yu decided to play the fool. He complimented the bully on his humor, providing entertainment for the whole class. The students whispered, wondering why Sun Yu was running on empty. His mana was exhausted, and they even accused him of being a spoiled, incompetent young master. This blonde nuisance was Park In-hoan, a fool destined to become a villain. He represented madness in the early stages of the novel's theory. Sun Yu knew arguing was pointless. What good would it do to stay quiet? But then the guy with the potato-like hair revealed his true colors, officially branding Sun Yu as the class idiot. He wanted Sun Yu to serve as In-hoan's pet every single day, but when he called out his name, someone else stepped forward. Seo Jein, capturing the room with his presence. He was angry. He was upset because In-hoan refused to stop bullying the weak, even after being warned. The bastard mocked Seo Jein for acting like a hero. He was a genius who considered ordinary people beneath him, yet In-hoan had to obey him because of his status. Before Jein could say another word, the potato-headed lackey and his gang scrambled away, leaving the young hero behind. Jein checked the situation. He remembered Sun Yu from the test the other day. That live-streamed video wasn't exactly flattering. What kind of comfort could he offer a kid dying of embarrassment? It was as if nude photos had been leaked. Seo Jein prepared to play the knight, saving the princess, ensuring that the person who spread the video was punished. The conversation should have ended there, but Sun Yu quickly grabbed his hand. Believe it or not, the young man looked the hero in the eye and bluntly invited Seo Jein to partner up with him. This story was one line of dialogue away from turning into a boys' love novel. Sun Yu acted like a desperate maiden meeting her savior, the victim begging the male protagonist for help in the dungeon class. The genius was astonished, questioning his intentions, when Sun Yu confidently shared that this was mutually beneficial. Think about it. The hero's refusal was essentially a rejection of Sun Yu's worth. She was not a reliable teammate, but he persistently insisted there were two main reasons to cooperate. This was an opportunity. Jein listened to the reasons. You might think they were about to dive into some sophisticated manipulation, but no, the young man's first reason was brutal honesty. He was simply in last place, rank 52. Jein thought that was a reason to be embarrassed not to form a team. But then Sun Yu revealed the system's adjustment points for the general test. If the top student stood with the lowest ranked student, the pair would receive a significant number of extra points to balance the handicap. This confused Jein. Nevertheless, he believed that the risk was too high when teaming up with a complete novice. Delivering the second reason, Sun Yu revealed that Ara had personally selected two students of low rank. This meant she was playing smart because that was her strength. Her specialty was large-scale magic. Anyone could see how easy everything would be with her strategy. Then came reason number 3. Although it was clearly stated at the beginning that there were only 2 reasons, Sun Yu pointed to himself and asserted confidently. He boasted to the male lead about his hidden skills. That was commendable confidence for a petty thief. Remember, Seo Jein is not some shonen protagonist who believes in the power of friendship. He was practically laughing in Sun Yu's face at that reasoning. However, he agreed to form a team with one simple condition: Seo Jein would be responsible for selecting the remaining members. Another great deal for the kid. He shook hands, agreeing to that condition, while the system announced that Seo Jein's interest was rising. I am more interested in you now. In the next scene, the class began, and the teacher lectured about history. In the past, there were only 2 magic systems, the main techniques instead of 4. This classification ultimately collapsed for a single reason, and the teacher challenged the whole class with a question about it. It was a display of arrogance. Using superior skills to bully a novice, Sun Wu volunteered his voice steady as he recounted the tale of Hun Kuang, the first great sorcerer of the 18th century, a legend who revolutionized the entire world of magic. Teacher, he droned on endlessly, lost in his own lecture. But secretly, Sun Wu was miles ahead, analyzing classes and deconstructing formulas in his mind. For anyone else, it would be impossible, even for a genius like Seo Jein. However, they possessed a secret weapon, an unfair advantage. The alien privilege allowed him to translate and convert ancient texts instantly. Whatever he wanted, the young man was a true prodigy. Whispers began to spread. Excitement brewed as classmates compared him to legends, calling him the Hermy One from Harry Potter, though a few brats still mocked him for his height, making Sun Wu look like a child. How annoying. But class was finally over. Time to move on. Lunchtime arrived. Students flooded the halls. Suddenly, Seo Jein grabbed the little guy, dragging him out to the lobby. A celebration feast. The scene shifted. They returned to their seats. A familiar figure waved from the crowd, gesturing for them to approach. This was Yang Jin, a character of immense potential, a key to the plot and incidentally Selin's best friend. Fate, unfortunately, had forced them apart. The exam system was cruel, because two high-ranked players, if they teamed up, their points would be halved. Sitting opposite them at the table, Sun Woo became the center of attention. All eyes were on him. His name carried weight now thanks to that viral video. Yongjin couldn't wrap his head around it. How did these two become close friends? And the moment he realized the kid had actually formed a party with Selin, his entire worldview shattered. It felt wrong. Yongjin thought it was ridiculous. Why try this hard? Why struggle for first place? They could have easily taken the top spot without this mess. No point system needed. However, the male lead admitted the truth. He was wary of spirits, specifically Ara's frenzied battle avatar. He had lost before while that guy took first place. He explained the strategy of using two low-ranking teammates to maximize the score. Yongjin was stunned. Of course. It was a calculated gamble. As they ate, a girl watched. Shadowy eyes observed them. She remembered him. The one who posted about the Great Forest. Extraction. Her friend wondered what she was doing. What captured her attention? She pretended to be unfazed, whispering nothing. However, the shock remained. The headache was brewing. How could Sun Woo be so close to them? A design crafted by genius. So be it. The scene shifted. The training room. Here the students tested their limits. He appeared again. But this time, he saved more mana. He created it. Launching the spell like a curveball, this action. It was called trajectory manipulation. The attack landed squarely on the dummy. A direct hit. It was no surprise that the students were left speechless, impressed by his terrifying progress. Sun Woo smiled, happy to see their gazes change, a shift in perspective. But before he could get lazy, he remembered going back 7 years. He had hoarded texts and wasted points on raw stats. Unfortunately, focusing only on the numbers was a trap. The cost of upgrades became astronomically expensive. That was why he got stuck, hitting a wall at a certain rank just like in a game, treating life like a video game. However, this time, Sun Woo would change his destiny. Instead of pouring points into indexes blindly, he would aim for improving through characteristics and items. Basically, he wanted to build an unshakable foundation. No more blind upgrades. Unexpectedly, he discovered a hidden gem. New intrinsic effects were unlocked, helping to increase magical power by up to 15% depending on the environment. Then he purchased a crucial item, the regression wristwatch, an artifact that accelerated recovery, restoring health and mana by up to 200%. Unfortunately, he could usually only buy this later. To afford it, he sold off a Class A characteristic called King. Even Chef Gordon Ramsay wouldn't hire him now. But where is he in the future? Well, characteristics could be sold for massive points. And thanks to this investment, his foundation. The current version of Sun Woo was leagues ahead, compared to the last timeline. Suddenly, Sun Woo's phone vibrated. He scoffed. Who would call him? But then his eyes widened. Astonished by the image on the screen, Sun Woo had been added. A group chat with Hyun Sung-ji-hoo and Min Tae. He knew nothing about them except one thing. They were all rankers. Although Short Young Jin was one of them, this guy would play a legendary role later on. Right now, just useless. Since they had no skills, yet their role wasn't significant. Not yet. Seo In wanted everyone to share their skills, revealing unique characteristics to understand each other. Ji-Hoo's skills were support and realization, making magic a reality. Ji-Hoo specialized in ice and support, a Jin clan lineage enhanced but without a strong foundation. Regarding realization, our boy typed in his information, while Ji-Hoo mocked him humorously, as if the whole school didn't know his technique, that ability to make things happen. Being teased meant success. Sun Woo thought it was for the best. The goal: keep Seo In as the main force, while the others supported her from the shadows. To win first place, they needed to evolve, to become much more than Ara's team. This curiosity burned within him. Who were her members? Back at the training ground, students were showcasing their abilities. One judge criticized a student harshly, focusing too much on operations. Being short of energy slowed down the execution. Amateur mistake. As for Ara, she stepped up, ready to show everyone an explosive performance. A detonation of magic. Everyone thought she was truly outstanding, a well-rounded talent at the peak. Even though she was young, she still needed to improve, just a little more. For example, her magical power efficiency was still lacking. Coincidentally, our guy fired a shot from behind, catching everyone off guard. The person was stunned. He just hit it. The goal was destroyed by high realization. A perfect grant. Sun Woo's progress had been noted, clearly understood. She witnessed Sun Woo's maturity from close range. The gap was closing. He hit a wall during the decryption process. But the time for failure is over. He must unleash his power at the ceremony. The question remains, how much of it can he control? The spiral sphere can be cast at will, draining negligible mana. He recognized his fatal flaw in an instant. He didn't just find a solution, he evolved. His intuition left a deep impression on the instructor. As twilight painted the sky, the special session concluded. She thanked the students for their grueling dedication. The students scattered, finally released from the pressure. Despite the exhaustion, spirits were high. However, Sunu was detained by the teacher for a private word. She motioned for him to stay back as the others left. Her voice was filled with praise for his relentless drive. She saw right through his facade. "You haven't rested enough," she noted softly. Her curiosity was piqued by his cultivation method. She could sense the anomaly in his energy flow. She had been watching his focus intently. Sun Yu realized his mentor was terrifyingly sharp. She had instantly grasped his critical weakness, a severe mana deficiency. It was a ghost from his past. He confirmed her suspicion with a nod. Even after hellish training, the teacher sighed, admitting the harsh reality. Your mana pool is a puddle compared to the ocean of your talent. There were no cheat codes in this reality. To build a reservoir of power, he had no choice. Pure, unadulterated effort was the only path. But our boy didn't flinch. He smiled. He was ready to bleed for his strength. Moved by his resolve, she offered a gift. "Consider this a friendship bracelet," she joked. In truth, it was a respiratory artifact. It aided mana absorption and regulation. Sun Yu stared in confusion. Was it really okay to accept such a treasure? He hesitated, feeling unworthy of the favor. But she quickly waved away his concern. "Don't feel burdened," she smiled. "It's just a cheap, low-grade training item." Sun Yu bowed deeply, gratitude filling his chest. Her generosity was unexpected but welcome. As she waved goodbye, the session officially ended. Our protagonist walked away, clutching his new treasure like a lifeline, but his peaceful mood was shattered instantly. A figure was waiting for him in the hallway. Ah, it was her. The buzzing fly he tried to ignore. She refused to give up matching his stride. She tried to act natural, but the tension was thick. Our boy decided to poke the bear. He teased her, reminding her of how much she used to despise his presence. But the girl from the elite family ignored the jab. She already knew the disastrous news about the team formation. It was Selin. Her next words caught Sun Yu off guard. She accused him of being a filth parasite, a leech trying to ride the coattails of a top ranker. Her ambition was to secure the first-place ranking. "Wake up from your delusion," she hissed. She demanded he stop dragging the team down. He looked at her with pure bewilderment. He realized just how fragile this girl's ego truly was. Thursday morning arrived with a heavy atmosphere. The entire team gathered at the rendezvous point. It was the day of the dungeon trial. Sun Yu was just happy they were physically in the same space without killing each other. But the vibes were far from harmonious. Di Hyuk sneered at their lineup. "What a unique circus," he mocked sarcastically. "We have the kings and the peasants in one boat." He turned his venom towards Sun Yu. He made sure to remind everyone of the inconvenient truth. This guy can't even throw a proper punch. The exam hadn't even started, and the infighting began. Sun Yu sighed. This guy's self-hatred was projecting hard. Suddenly, Jin Ti stepped in, but not to help. He claimed that Selin would carry the dead weight anyway. It was a backhanded defense at best. That wasn't a compliment. It was an insult. It branded Sun Yu as a shameless freeloader. As for Herzdung, he remained a silent extra in the background, a mere supporting character in this chapter of the story. Sun Yu's main worry wasn't the insults but the composition. This team was a disaster waiting to happen. Herzdung was passable barely. But the rest of these ego-driven maniacs, Sun Yu felt a headache coming on. The uncertainty was suffocating. Suddenly, the proctor's voice boomed across the hall. "Attention," he commanded, demanding silence. He began to outline the rules of the expedition. The objective is a full dungeon clear within 1 day. It was a race against time and darkness. Next came the scoring criteria. Speed was of the essence. Faster clears meant massive bonus points. But there was a twist in the calculation. Points are adjusted based on team ranking. Lower-ranked squads would earn higher multipliers. Finally, individual contribution was key. The artificial dungeon had an omniscient computing system. It would track every move, spell, and kill. Those who carried the team would reap the rewards. Safety is absolute, the proctor finished. The boring briefing was finally over. The gates to the abyss creaked open. Deep in the control room, the surveillance team watched. Every monitor displayed a different squad. The medical instructors stood by, expecting casualties. But the faculty had their own twisted entertainment. They were placing bets on the students' survival. The majority went all in on Ara's team instantly. They believed her domination was inevitable. It seemed like a one-horse race. That was until the special class instructor spoke up. "I'll put my stake on Selin's group," Miss Lai declared. The room went silent. Even Mr. Jiang looked at her like she was insane. "Ara's squad is a well-oiled machine," he argued. "Selin's group is a disaster waiting to happen. Group 3 was infamous for its incompetence. There is zero teamwork there, only Selin's ego. She acted as a solo unit, ignoring her allies." Miss Lai knew the archetype well. Combat mages who refuse support always fall. They would eventually be swarmed and overwhelmed. Ara, however, was a different breed of monster. She specialized in devastated area of effect magic. She was already tearing through the first floor at breakneck speed. Miss Lai nodded, acknowledging the girl's power. "That is why I'm betting on the wild card." She had taken the disadvantage, eyes locked on the screen. Back in the dungeon, the chaos had begun. We zoom in on the supposed freeloader. He dispatched a wave of beasts in silence. Not a single drop of sweat stained his brow. The rest of the elite squad stood around idly. Jin and Jae Hyo were just enjoying the show. They looked relieved to be carried by the very person they envied. The path to the first floor opened before them. Curiosity bubbled within the group regarding the boss. Surely on the first floor it couldn't be a catastrophic threat. It was merely beginner level after all. Laughter echoed in the hallway as they brushed off the danger. But Wai grimly reminded them that even an insect here is a monster by nature. A terrifying force was waiting in the dark. When she asked for his tactical opinion, Sun Yu didn't hesitate. He predicted that giant wolves were lurking in the shadows. Di-Hu scoffed at the very notion, dismissing the warning. Our protagonist didn't bother explaining his foresight. He knew the truth while Du-Hook looked at him with suspicion. Initially, they branded Sun Yu a liar full of calculated deceit. But the provocation worked perfectly. It only forced our cunning hero to play his cards closer to his chest. Sin stepped in to quell the infighting, advising them to focus. The party pressed onward until suddenly our hero signaled for the entire group to halt immediately. Jin Ti immediately mocked him, calling him a coward for freezing up. But deep down, Jin sensed something was terribly wrong with the atmosphere on this floor. What was the problem? The camera zoomed in, revealing the source of the dread, a complex magic circle blocking their path. Jin Ti stared, frustration boiling over at this anomaly. Even the self-proclaimed righteous ones felt a chill down their spines, fearing a dangerous encounter. Yet the bravest among them was none other than little Sun Yu. While the inspector scrutinized the runes, ignoring Sejun's careful warnings, Sun Yu analyzed the flow of mana. He realized the true nature of the magic circle. This wasn't a death trap. It was a simple barrier seal. Duai and the others scoffed, refusing to believe his assessment, but our boy remained unfazed. He had seen this exact barrier before in the timeline of his previous life. To prove his claim, he reached out and placed his hand directly on the shimmering energy field. His palm pressed against the invisible wall, confirming his hypothesis. Jin Ti watched with narrowed eyes, finding Sun Yu's quiet competence incredibly annoying. Now that they were trapped, panic set in. But Sin, exuding the aura of a protagonist, decided to shatter the barrier with sheer brute force. He drew his sword, radiating a magnificent golden halo. With a thunderous lunge, he unleashed a strike that seemed to cut the barrier cleanly in two. The group gasped in astonishment, but victory was denied. In the blink of an eye, the barrier mended itself as if nothing had happened. The stubborn warrior refused to admit defeat, preparing another strike. But Dai-Hu stepped forward, arrogant, and ready to show them how a support class handles this. Even as a support type, he wanted to play the cool hero. It was pathetic, and the moment he interacted with the mana, the result was obvious. Absolutely nothing happened. He just circled around it, putting on a show for nothing. They realized their brute force methods would cost them precious time. Sun Yu had seen enough. He stopped the charade and declared he would handle it himself. Raising both hands, he began to interact with the spiritual energy. He tapped into the magic formation until a chime rang out. His otherworlder privilege activated. The system's automatic translation feature kicked into high gear. The complex magical formula was instantly converted into Korean text. What was once an impossible seal became a simple riddle in his native tongue. Rapidly arranging the runic words, Sun Yu successfully deciphered the code. With a hum of dissipating energy, the barrier shattered into light. It was all thanks to this young man's brilliance. Both Sin and Jin Ti were left speechless. And for his feat, the system awarded him a massive 5,000 points. Surprisingly, the feat also generated interest points from the main characters. It seemed the system had unlocked a new social feature. With the barrier removed, they stormed the boss's lair. And lo and behold, waiting for them was the giant wolf, exactly as Sun Yu had predicted. The ferocious demon radiated overwhelming power, threatening to crush the party. With a blood-curdling howl, the boss charged straight into their formation. Sin positioned himself instantly. The wolf attacked relentlessly, but Sin countered his blade, slashing with golden aura, cutting deep into the creature's body. Too easy, he scoffed. The young hero maintained his cool demeanor even as he delivered the killing blow to the floor boss. With the monsters eradicated, they exited the dungeon. The judges were waiting to congratulate them, tallying their scores for the final ranking. Second place. The team stood stunned. Despite their speed, they learned that Ara's group had already cleared the dungeon. They were a staggering 30 minutes faster. Even the instructors were awed by her clearing speed, leaving Sun Yu's teammates to question their own talents. Ara was a complete monster. She speedran the floor as if she were playing a sandbox game like Minecraft. The outcome was undeniable. Still, Selin was genuinely happy. She knew Sun Yu's contribution was the only reason they even secured the top 2 spot. If he hadn't broken that barrier, they would have been left in the dust. Selin hung her head, feeling she had failed the team by not being strong enough. But Haidong assured him that Sun Yu had single-handedly carried the burden. The rest of the team agreed, rallying around to support their leader. They encouraged the squad, reminding them this was only the first week. There was still plenty of time to surpass Ara's legendary group. As they prepared to leave, a woman approached, eyes fixed on Sun Yu. It was none other than the faculty teacher from the support department. She came with an attractive offer. She wanted him to switch specializations immediately and transfer directly to the support department. It was a golden ticket, but Sun Yu didn't hesitate. He didn't waste a second, refusing her outright right to her face. The teacher was floored. He had rejected her before she could even finish. Her voice rose, emphasizing the magnitude of his mistake. With her authority, she could grant him a full talent scholarship. She even dangled a luxury villa worth 50 million won as bait. That should have been enough for anyone. Yet our boy still said no. The surrounding students looked at Sun Yu like he was a complete idiot. Who rejects a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? They whispered that, with his half-hearted abilities, he should have gratefully accepted the charity. While these ignorant fools rambled on, a cold voice cut through the noise. Ara stepped into the conversation, her eyes locking onto Sun Yu. It would be absolute madness to switch paths now. Because true genius demands tribute. The rewards went far beyond mere scholarships, proving his worth. With overflowing arrogance, Sun Wu made his declaration. He had mastered the flow of magic, to manifest his will into reality. The crowd's reaction was instantaneous, but then a shift in the atmosphere. Enter the heroine. A walking romance flag crossed paths with our boy, offering a gentle greeting. His response was unexpectedly gentle, even though the young miss butchered his name again. He simply smiled and corrected the error. But what truly shocked him was that this unrivaled genius was busy, janitor duty, AMC. But do not be deceived. This wasn't out of the kindness of his heart. Sun Wu had a hidden agenda. He scrubbed until the glass screamed impurity. Good heavens. His work ethic actually left a deep impression on her. A polite farewell followed, but appearances are deceiving. Here's the twist that changes everything. This girl wore a mask of porcelain. Beneath the smile, she utterly despised Sun Wu's menial labor. But the system was watching. The system chimed with a glorious sound. 1,000 points secured. A new achievement unlocked. The legendary Snail Fairy title was the real reason. Sun Wu had humbled himself to scrub floors from the very beginning. He grabbed his bucket, mission accomplished, leaving the scene completely unaware that a secret admirer was lurking in the shadows. Back in the lecture hall, reality set in. The instructor detailed the hierarchy of threats, from beast types to aerial terrors, and finally, the apex predators of this world, the ghosts or guardian spirits. The instructor scanned the room, demanding an answer. Why are they the ultimate threat? Sun Wu's voice cut through the silence. It is their ability to shed their humanity, perfect camouflage masking a berserker state. They mirror us perfectly. That is the terrifying variable. A prize-winning answer, these monsters are the root of all chaos. Voracious predators feasting on human flesh. They can even command lesser beasts like puppets. They hide in plain sight, embedded deep within our society, indistinguishable from your neighbor or friend. No one can spot the imposter. Make no mistake, they are demons in skin suits. Only in the most critical moments do they reveal their true form, when their sclera turns into an abyss of darkness. Hearing this, a memory sparked in Sun Wu's mind. He recalled the script of the future, a catastrophic event set for this very weekend. The first encounter with a hidden demon. This would mark the rise of Selin as a legendary sorceress, the prodigy who slaughtered a demon while still a student. But the young master knew the truth. He could easily crush this threat with his own hands. However, interfering might shatter the original plotline. He needed to calculate every variable. But let's be real. The biggest crisis right now, poverty. He needs bread, or rather, cold hard cash to execute his grand design for Selin. In the following scene, Sun Wu locked in, no distractions, deep meditation and mana cultivation. As he focused, The system chimed its sweet melody, notifying him of a surge in latent power. Bonus points rained down like manna from heaven. Sun Wu ended his session with a smirk. The grind was finally paying off. His mana reserves were overflowing, but his eyes were glued to a specific notification. His status window flickered with a glorious update. His trait had ascended to level 2. A new passive skill. Heart of the Great Monarch was unlocked. Sun Wu could barely contain his excitement. Checking the description was pure ecstasy. This was the power he needed. The cooldown was set to 24 hours, but it offered a 1000% recovery rate for 1 minute. An absolute game changer. A trump card reserved for moments of life and death. Sun Wu swelled with pride. His faith in his own materialization magic was unshakable. He remembered the offer from the support department. But the only way forward was to shatter his limits. All thanks to his overpowered system. The support department couldn't hope to keep up. They lacked the vision to create true results. Sadly, he had to reject their help, which meant kissing that scholarship goodbye. Checking his bank account brought him back to Earth. 30,001. How humiliating. The tragic reality of being broke. His world was crumbling. He racked his brain for a financial miracle. Sun Wu analyzed his options. There was only one path: dungeon diving, hunting beasts and looting corpses, but those paths were paved with death. The only viable option was the tower. Yes, he was merely a student, but his confidence soared to the heavens. He could crush the lower floors. There was just one tiny glitch. He was a miner with 0 licensing, completely checkmated. Suddenly, a light bulb moment. He had the perfect loophole. Meanwhile, cut to the faculty office. The instructors were gushing over a certain prodigy. Our boy had become the main event, the hot topic of the academic year. They had been watching his every move, even witnessing his dawn patrol cleaning session. They were floored by his dedication. Such a positive attitude. Such diligence. Miss Lai beamed with maternal pride. She couldn't help but gloat, mocking the support department for their failure to recruit him. But in the end, they all agreed. It was pure joy to witness a diamond in the rough, a student truly serious about the craft. Meanwhile, Sun Wu was feeling himself. Just a little bit too arrogant, thinking he was a god. Especially after hitting that new tier, he activated the search function, accessing the system store for some retail therapy. 10,000 points. A heavy price to pay. But Sun Wu went all in, spinning the wheel of fate for a legendary reward, muttering prayers in the hallway. Saturday morning arrived with a vengeance. A tall, imposing figure marched toward the tower. Security blocked his path, demanding ID. With a smirk, he flashed his license. Sun Wu was gone. Meet Jin, the C-Rank Mage. Solo leveling fans, prepare yourselves. You will want to scream, "Arise," the moment you witness this legendary scene. The inspector scrutinized the license with intense suspicion. The card slid into the scanner with a mechanical hum. Cold sweat trickled down Sun Yu's spine. He knew one error would make his entire plan crumble into dust. But fortune favors the bold. The system flashed green, confirming the boy's identity was valid. Welcome to the abyss, young challenger. Even knowing the plot, the tension was suffocating. It was a flawless deception. Do you recall how he spent his hard-earned currency? He purchased a completely new existence from the system store. A hefty sum of points to rewrite reality itself. Every detail customized to perfection. This wasn't just a fake ID. It came with a certified wizard's license. In this world, forging such a document is nearly impossible. It is a death sentence to try. Each mage possesses a unique mana signature like a fingerprint of the soul. Counterfeiting it should be beyond human capability. But our protagonist plays by different rules. Those glasses aren't for style. They cast a high-level hypnosis spell. His hair color changes in the eyes of the beholder without a single drop of dye. The masquerade begins. He must conquer the tower before the deadline hits at the Han River. The clock is ticking. 9:30 was the designated time for the sorcerer's arrival. The tower's defense system welcomed the fake identity with open arms. He bypassed the lower levels, aiming straight for the 27th floor. Standing atop the magic circle, Sun Yu issued his command. In a flash of light, the tower warped him to the 10th floor. Unbelievable efficiency. Fortunately, this zone was already cleared, meaning the rewards were trash. But Sun Yu didn't care about pocket change. He ignored the basic loot and marched toward his true objective. The real treasure lay hidden in the shadows. Teleportation gates are the lifelines of this world. They connect the chaotic layers of the tower. But not all towers are created equal. Difficulty spikes wildly depending on the variant. Monster strength and trap lethality can shift in a heartbeat. According to the lore, the test tower is a nightmare. It is a place most guilds avoid, like the plague, due to its hellish difficulty. Fear keeps the weak away. But Sun Yu possesses the ultimate weapon knowledge of the future. He knows exactly who needs to die first. Standing in his path is the three-eyed giant wolf, a beast radiating a murderous aura that would freeze a normal man. The beast lunged jaws, gaping to rip him into ribbons. But the mage stood his ground, calm as a still lake. One spell was all it took to end the beast's life, a perfect musical rhythm of destruction. The monsters here might be weaker than the boss, but do not be fooled. Hunting them is the easy part. The true killers are the traps and ancient magic formulas. High-level complexity designed to break the mind. For any other adventurer, this would be a wall of despair. But for Sun Yu, it is child's play. His passive skill, automatic translation, is essentially a cheat code. He is running the magical version of ChatGPT. In his brain, he deciphered the ancient runes instantly. With time to spare, Sun Yu moved to the next coordinate. Meanwhile, the scene shifts to the world outside. The peaceful breeze of the Han River caressed Selin's face. Young Jin stood beside her, unaware of the chaos inside the tower. They were simply there to capture memories. The camera clicked freezing moments of a peaceful life, a stark contrast to the battle raging elsewhere. Ignorance truly is bliss. Back in the dungeon, our boy is on a rampage. Sun Yu's luck stat must be maxed out. He stumbled upon a rare mana crystal early in the morning, a precious drop from a fallen beast. This single stone covers his entire travel budget. But greed didn't blind him. He sensed a trap nearby. His hands brushed the cold stone wall, searching for the trigger. Click. He disarmed the hidden mechanism and unlocked a new title, Barrier Disarming Expert. Achievement unlocked, he stepped into the abyss. He entered the hidden level of the challenge tower. This is the inner world, a realm saturated with heavy mana. The atmosphere here is completely different, thick with mysterious energy. Sun Yu smiled, satisfied with his navigation. This secret zone is the Holy Grail. It was the sole reason he infiltrated this hellhole. Suddenly, the spirit of the tower spoke, acknowledging his presence. Challenger, prove your worth. The statue of the celestial god began to glow with blinding light. An aura so overwhelming it commanded absolute submission. And then, the garden bloomed with danger. Do not let their cute appearance fool you. The flower fairies emerged from the petals. They may look like Tinkerbell, but they have the hearts of demons. Though only rank C, they swarm with vicious intent. These airborne monsters go berserk the moment they smell human blood. A swarm of death approached, but fear is not in Sun Yu's vocabulary. He unleashed a gale of wind magic. He knew that in this battle, speed would be the difference between life and death. Magic bullets rained down like a thunderstorm. He fired blindly yet accurately, filling the air with destruction. One by one, the fairies were swatted like flies. As the monsters faded into dust, he began his true work. He sketched a complex magic circle on the ground. Brute force alone would not solve this riddle. Even if he slaughtered every fairy on the 10th floor, the gate would remain shut. The spirit demanded a proof of competence, not just violence. A test of the mind. Utilizing his bystander privilege perk, he saw through the matrix. The magic formula unraveled before his eyes. It was time to rewrite the rules. In mere moments, the barrier's logic collapsed. I will prove myself to you, spirit, he declared. Sun Yu made it look effortless. But this overwhelming power was not free. It was a gift from the legendary Truck Kun who sent him to this world. His reincarnation bonus was paying off. The tower acknowledged his dominance. A notification rang out. 10,000 points awarded. He even received the certificate of the tower. This unique trait proved he was an anomaly in the system. Rare items flooded his inventory as rewards for the conquest. The loot was magnificent. Mana recovery speed increased. Magic power amplified. His stats were skyrocketing. Sun Yu grinned as the soul of the tower celebrated his victory. Meanwhile, back at the river, fireworks lit up the night sky. A celebration for a different reason. But then Yang Jin froze while reviewing the photos. Brother Hung noticed something lurking in the background. A chill went down their spines. Yang Jin's eyes widened in absolute horror. They zoomed in on the image. There, captured in high definition, was a sorcerer in a fedora. It wasn't a ghost. It was a demon with pitch-black eyes staring right at them. Sun Yu locked eyes with the target immediately. Shock rippled through him. This face was unfamiliar. But where was Jane? The demon was teetering on the brink of madness, tossing gold around like a deranged zombie. The clock was ticking mercilessly. It was past 9:30, yet Jane was still missing in action. A dilemma gnawed at our hero. Should he strike first? No, he couldn't. The real issue was far deeper because this moment was scripted destiny. Interfering now could shatter the main storyline. A single move might derail the entire future of this world. The entity's erratic aura drew in a kind-hearted soul. A stranger approached to check on him. A fatal mistake. I think a monster has just been born. A sharp-jawed mockery of humanity stood there. Sun Yu watched in horror. As crimson splattered across the floor, the stranger coughed up his lifeblood, his kindness repaid with death. The demon had snapped. A brutal stab. The creature tore him apart like wet paper. Like a broken rag doll, he collapsed into a widening pool of scarlet, and then the beast went berserk, shredding his disguise. Muscles bulged with terrifying power. This monster wasn't just strong, he was ripped like a titan. And he wasn't done yet. Another innocent girl stood frozen behind the madness. The demon turned, locking onto his next prey. She was the next sacrifice. The crowd finally grasped the nightmare unfolding before them. Meanwhile, our protagonist could wait no longer. He summoned his spear, knowing he had to play his hand. Sun Yu decided to hell with the original plot. He dashed toward the girl like a streak of lightning. Elsewhere, Jein and Selin had already flagged the anomaly. The intel was passed to the elites, the United Nations Counterterrorism Mage Guild. Hunsu was absolutely certain of one thing. That was a demon. And the catastrophe was hunting it down. Worse yet, it was a holiday. The streets were packed with walking food sources. If it feasted on more blood, it would become unstoppable. Suddenly, Selin's senses screamed. Her detection skill flared at maximum capacity. A massive singularity of dark energy had appeared. Hunsu detected the shockwave too. That was pure, malicious mana. The oblivious crowd had no idea that death walked among them. But the demon was inches away from tearing the woman's throat out. He prepared to feast, but a sudden tremor halted him. An object went flying. A table smashed into him. The monster was momentarily stunned. Seizing the chance, the woman scrambled away from the jaws of death. But the hunter does not give up so easily. Sun Yu focused, preparing his martial arts. He knew exactly what he was facing, a B-ranked demon. This would be a fight for survival. He channeled every ounce of strength into a single strike. He aimed for the blind spot, the creature's fatal weakness. A spinning sphere of mana launched forward. It slammed into the demon's skull, dealing critical damage. He had successfully drawn the beast's aggro. Sun Yu waited, breath held. The monster turned slowly, revealing a nightmare. Half his face was charred black, yet he still stood. Cursed regeneration. The burnt flesh was knitting together before his eyes. This was bad. He had aimed to destroy the brain. But a simple ambush wouldn't suffice. Roaring in fury, the demon exploded with purple aura. He charged straight for the mage. The beast pinned our young hero against the wall. With nowhere to run, he had to gamble everything. He activated his ultimate skill, Heart of Mother Nature. Instantly, his mana regeneration skyrocketed by 1000%. He had 60 seconds of infinite power. With this god mode engaged, he unleashed a barrage of mana spheres. Sun Yu knew he couldn't kill it, but he didn't need to. He just needed to buy time. The energy backlash seared the demon's flesh. Severe burns blossomed across its body under the relentless assault. The monster crashed to the ground. Sun Yu didn't let up, forcing the predator into a desperate defense. It could only block against the storm. Our hero kept his distance, playing it smart. His only objective was survival. Every shot hammered the demon's skull. The beast howled in frustration, completely overwhelmed by the Sss-Ranker's firepower. Sun Yu thought he had this in the bag. But fate is cruel. The 60-second timer was ticking down rapidly, and suddenly the tables turned. While Sun Yu drained, the opponent healed at light speed. The demon's health bar refilled instantly, but before the killing strike could land, Agent Hunsu flashed in. A single blade of wind decapitated the monster. The threat was neutralized. Order was restored to the chaotic scene. But the victory belonged to the young man who held the line until reinforcements arrived. Hunsu demanded identification to process the reward for such bravery. Our hero handed over his license. Hunsu stared at the C-rank stamp in disbelief. He had assumed this fighter was at least B-rank. The rest of the squad, Jin and Seo, finally pulled up. Sun Yu flinched. This was getting complicated. They show up now that the work is done. Useless. Watching from afar, Seo narrowed her eyes at the mysterious mage. Had she seen him before, her instincts screamed yes. If she had caught even a glimpse of his casting style, she would recognize him instantly. She marched up to our protagonist and dropped the question. "Do you know Kim Sun Yu?" "No idea," he lied smoothly. She pressed on, mentioning the military magic academy. Even young Jin noticed the uncanny resemblance. The atmosphere grew tense. Keeping his hood up, Sun Yu stood his ground. "I've never heard that name." Luckily, Agent Hunsu stepped in. He had no patience for this interrogation and tactfully shooed the students away. Sun Wu attempted to play the fool, heaping flattery upon the hero to lower his guard. But Sein was not so easily deceived. His eyes narrowed, piercing through the act with intense suspicion. It was a gaze that demanded truth, weighing whether this stranger was friend or foe. Meanwhile, the agent decided that this anomaly was too significant to ignore and departed to file an urgent report. Once the agent was gone, Sun Wu breathed a sigh of relief. As if waiting for this moment of privacy, a holographic blue window materialized before his eyes. The system had arrived to acknowledge his interference. A warning flashed crimson, the narrative had been altered. By saving Sein, the variables of this world were shifting dangerously away from the original plot. But for Sun Wu, this chaos was exactly what he needed. The causality score ticked upward, rising by 0.2%. It was a small number, but it carried the weight of destiny. The law of cause and effect was beginning to bend to his will. In this fabricated world, your existence is defined by your impact. By personally resolving such a critical event, Sun Wu had proven that he was not merely a background character, he was a variable capable of rewriting history. He had prevented the hero's premature death during the final battle against the Crow Monster, a tragedy that was supposed to be inevitable. This single act of defiance had ripple effects that would shake the foundations of power. The rewards for such a feat depended on the multiplier level of his intervention, but the true prize was the karma effect. If he could accumulate 100 points, the system promised him a miracle, the ability to grant a single absolute wish. For Sun Wu, there was no hesitation. His heart yearned for only one thing: to return to his friends in the real world. That hope ignited a fire in his belly, a motivation stronger than any magic. Now he had a clear path. By saving key figures and twisting the plot, he could farm these precious causality points. The young man resolved to force his way into the core of the story. He would no longer watch from the sidelines. He would become the puppet master. With 15,000 gold secured from the association for stalling the demon, he had the capital to make his next move. Money was meant to be burned, especially when building a persona. He immediately sought out the finest luxury services available, intending to look the part of a wealthy elite. He strode into the Hansen Hotel, a towering monument of opulence owned by the formidable Hansen Group. In this world, they were not just a business, they were a dynasty. Possessing immense wealth and political influence, the Hansen family played a pivotal role in the main storyline. Sun Wu was betting everything on this encounter. He was welcomed with surprising warmth, and soon found himself face-to-face with Han Sejin, the vice-chairman, and the ruthlessly ambitious heir, apparent to the group. Sejin revealed that his younger sister had expressed a keen interest in dining with their new guest. That sister was none other than Han Song, a character whose importance could not be overstated. This invitation was a reminder that she too was a major player in the unfolding drama. Back in his lavish suite, Sun Wu sank into deep thought, strategizing his approach. He examined his inventory. The spear he obtained was powerful, but far too flashy. Selling it would only draw unwanted attention. However, the skill book on enhancement was a hidden gem to be saved for later. His real ace in the hole was the bundle of rare herbs intended for her. But patience was key. The meeting was set for tomorrow. When the sun rose, however, the world had turned upside down. Breaking news flooded every screen. A mage had conquered the hidden level of the challenge tower. Replays showed a lone figure obliterating a demon in a display of overwhelming power. It was a Class C mage who had performed this miracle. The Magic Association wasted no time officially congratulating Kim Jin-woo and announcing an immediate review for a rank promotion. The public was left in stunned silence. A nobody, a mage from the bottom of the barrel, had crawled out of the abyss and achieved a feat that veteran hunters dreamed of. In a single day, he had rewritten the power hierarchy. Rumors flew that he had slain the demon single-handedly, a claim that terrified as much as it inspired. With his reputation skyrocketing, the system bestowed upon him a new title, the Little Hero. Nearly 2 million people were now watching his every move with bated breath. He had earned 21,000 points in one fell swoop. Sun Wu grinned. He had successfully crafted a new, untouchable identity in the eyes of the association. Now that he was the center of attention, it was time to strike. He arrived at the Han Song pharmacy not as a beggar, but as a rising star. All eyes turned to him. Whispers rippled through the crowd as they recognized the boy from the television. But Sun Wu's gaze was fixed on something else, a powerful magical presence nearby. It was Kang Suji, the S-class master of the clan, lurking in the shadows. Sun Wu was internally shocked. For a heavy hitter like her to be guarding this place meant the stakes were incredibly high. The receptionist, flustered by the presence of a celebrity, ushered him in. Sun Wu introduced himself with practiced confidence, stating his intention to sell herbs from the tower. Finally, he was led to the inner sanctum to meet Director Han Song. She examined the goods, and her professional mask cracked, revealing pure delight. "This energy," she whispered, her hands trembling slightly. "These plants possess vitality far beyond anything on the market. They are potent, rare, and absolutely pristine. To her, this wasn't just medicine. It was a miracle cure waiting to be born. She looked at the young man with new eyes, wondering how he had laid hands on such treasures. Sun Wu lied smoothly, claiming a background in medicinal research. In truth, he simply knew the properties of the sacred grass from the original novel. He explained that the grass could amplify the effects of other herbs, bypassing the need for complex alchemical reactions. But processing it correctly was the catch. It was a delicate procedure, one that required a genius touch. That was why he was entrusting this task to her, the legendary pharmacist Han Song. She didn't understand his specific terminology, but his confidence was infectious. Hooked by the potential, she asked for his price. Sun Wu smiled and held up 5 fingers. He bluntly demanded an advance of 500 million won, and more audaciously, a percentage of the company shares. The nearby executive scoffed, offended by the greed. This kid is delusional, the aide thought, assuming the sorcerer was ignorant of business. But Sun Wu didn't blink. He calmly explained the leverage he held. Once this sacred grass is commercialized, it will become an exclusive product that dominates the entire industry. You aren't paying for an herb, you're paying for a monopoly. The director's eyes hardened. Shares are impossible, she stated firmly. Instead, she offered him a VIP membership to the underground auction house. Along with the auction rights, she promised him priority access to manufacturing services for any items he needed. It was a generous counteroffer, but Sun Wu wanted more. She glared at him, realizing he wasn't just here to sell. He was here to play the game. She had found the materials she desperately needed. But this young man was dangerous. Then Sun Wu delivered the killing blow. His next words sent a chill down her spine, freezing the air in the room. He leaned in closer. "I know your brother's weakness," he whispered. "And I know that you are plotting to dethrone him and take total control of the Hansen Group." She cared nothing for the consequences, even if it meant burning her own sanctuary to ash. The scene shifts to the deepest shadows, the lair of the demons. A heated debate erupted over the death of Jiang Han. To them, it should have been a simple task. Furious, he seized a pair of iron bars and crushed them into dust with his bare hands. His voice dripped with disappointment and regret over their failure to intervene sooner. The subordinate could only tremble, recalling the strict orders from their leader. If they failed to eradicate humankind, now the tables would turn. They would become the hunted. Bake Gang paced in a rage, his mind consumed by the threat they posed. They were forced to skulk in the darkness like rats. How long would they have to endure this humiliation? His blood boiled at the mere thought of Kim Jin-woo. Murderous intent surged within him. He was determined to slaughter that sorcerer. He had taken down his comrade. But his subordinate dared to suggest that a direct attack was not a wise strategy. While Jin-woo, that upstart mage, was growing stronger by the day, they decided to bide their time. Bake Gang commanded patience, assuring them that everything would proceed according to plan. Ultimately, his subordinates were far more ruthless than he gave them credit for. Meanwhile, the 2 siblings of the Hanshin group met in a tense standoff, Jin and Seo Jein. Just as Bake Gang had predicted, one of them possessed a cruelty deep enough to destroy their own bloodline, and they would do it with a smile. During the drive, Seo Jein sat in uncomfortable silence. Her brother asked about her life, but his tone was laced with mockery. He wanted to hear that she was miserable. It was clear the family politics had exhausted her completely. She felt the old man was being too hasty. It was reckless to transfer such a massive amount of gold and shares to Jin. He had even made an insulting suggestion, that she should surrender her shares and hand over total control of the company to him. In exchange, she could pretend as the vice president. But the underlying message was clear. The offer was a slap in the face, igniting a fire of anger within her. Meanwhile, Sun Wu had successfully acquired her private number. He was playing a dangerous game utilizing 2 different accounts to manage his dual identities. He smirked, confident that he was on the right track. The chess move he made when he met her was paying off. "Remember to sell everything. You don't have to worry about the fallout," he had told her. The problem was that she possessed an excellent network of informants. Sun Wu knew this better than anyone. She would definitely cross-reference the weaknesses he had exposed. Speaking of which, he remembered Seo Jein. "I'll text you," he thought, "and I will gladly serve you. For 1 month, I will be your errand boy." In the official hunter system, she considered his alter ego to be a trusted figure. She had no idea it was our boy all along. She was so desperate she might even send the payment in advance. The information he gave her today had clearly delighted her. Sun Wu replied, reminding her to prepare the custom potion and the entrance ticket. As for the car accident, that was trivial. Her vehicle could be repaired quickly. She promised to contact him the moment those 2 items were ready to handle. With the agreement sealed, our young protagonist realized something. Maintaining a second identity was risky, but for Jin Woo, it was stimulating. The The storyline was evolving, involving demons and dark plots. This character originally possessed a tragic core. It is a tale of revenge, and the climax is approaching fast. Sun Woo opened the system interface to search for specific traits. He scanned the shop and found a series of passive skills. One stood out: the ability to sense killing intent. It came with a staggering price tag of 50,000 points. It cost a fortune, but the benefits were undeniable. The range was large enough to detect the bloodlust of any hidden enemies nearby. That is why our guy chose to buy it without hesitation. It was a small price to keep his head on his neck. A few days passed, and the special medication. His final request had finally been fulfilled. Seo Jein met with him for the second time, explaining how she had synthesized the magic. She warned him, exaggerating both the potency and the side effects of the concoction. This mana potion will drastically increase your regeneration speed, she explained. It restores mana by 500% for 5 minutes. But be warned, she added darkly, you will be completely exhausted for 30 minutes afterward. It was a true double-edged sword. What really bothered the shrewd director was why a wizard of his talent needed such a terrible elixir. It seemed too reckless for someone of his caliber. Next, she addressed the elephant in the room, the conflict with her brother. Sun Woo had exposed his weakness. He had mentioned it before, but now she had personally verified it through her connections. The result? It was absolutely shocking. She had absolutely no idea that her brother was responsible for the deaths of so many innocent people. He had contracted with dark sorcerers and evil spirits. Demons were involved, which was a catastrophic problem. But the bigger question plaguing her mind was, how did this guy know? How could a seemingly ordinary C-rank mage unearth such buried secrets? Sun Woo only knew this thanks to his knowledge of the original storyline. In the novel, the brother eventually collaborated with devils out of pure greed. He was destined to become one of the most prominent villains, a man corrupted by his own ambition. But our boy couldn't exactly say, I read it in a book, right to her face. Your brother is dangerous, was all he implied. She couldn't reject his intel easily. In short, this brother of hers was demanding 5% of the shares, a huge chunk of her empire. That challenge really excited Seo Jein because now she had the ammo to fight back. She flatly refused him. And what about the tickets? She had prepared them, but there was a catch. They could not be transferred to another person. If he wanted to go, he would have to enter as her escort. That was why she was dressed so lavishly. The director was curious about his true goal. Sun Woo simply explained that he intended to use his money for a specific purpose. A heavy silence hung in the air before Seo Jein asked him what he planned to do with such wealth. It turns out, our guy had a plan. I plan to squander it all on gambling, he declared. She looked at him as if he were crazy, calling him a clown. She reminded him their agreement would end after exactly 1 month. She was clearly disappointed in the sorcerer's lack of morals. But our guy didn't care about her judgment, not one bit. He already knew he would gain something far more valuable than money. He would win her absolute trust by dominating the next obstacle. In the underground arena, the scene shifts as Sun Woo and Seo Jein arrive at the venue. It was time to secure a suitable VIP bracelet and begin the show. Welcome to the fold. A shadow loomed over them, and Sun Woo recognized that face instantly. It was Hari, an S-class demon and the story's true villain, the absolute ruler of this underground empire. His presence alone was suffocating. He offered a fleeting greeting before vanishing into the crowd. Sun Woo steeled his nerves. He had to remember one rule. Crossing a monster like him meant certain death. Meanwhile, the arena roared to life. The crowd was fixated on the Xeon program. A sea of spectators had flooded the venue. They were here for one man. Yang Hongdu, the arena's most legendary gladiator, an undefeated tyrant who had crushed challengers for 3 straight years. In terms of pure combat prowess, this man was a monster. An A-rank mage of destructive power. Naturally, every gambler was pouring their gold onto him, but Sun Woo saw a different path. To make a fortune here, one had to defy common sense. Leaving a confused Xeon behind, he approached the betting counter. He slammed down 530 million won. Not on the champion, but the underdog. Even the staff froze while Xeon thought he had lost his mind. This was absolute lunacy, but who was the champion's hidden opponent? It was none other than a complete unknown. A rookie named Liang Liang making his debut. High above the arena owner received the report. He scoffed at the absurd wager placed on fresh meat. It was that daring bettor in the rabbit mask. Hari's interest was piqued. He sensed something intriguing about this mysterious high roller. Was Sun Woo just a bored rich kid playing games? Meanwhile, rumors spread of 2 phantoms scattering gold through the district. News reached Bechgang, and his fury ignited. The name of the hated sorcerer had surfaced at the event. He was obsessed with vengeance. Desperate for a chance to slaughter the mage. He swore to settle his debts in blood. and deliver justice for his fallen comrade. Back in the ring, Hongdu's previous foe surrendered instantly. The crowd screamed insults. They had lost a fortune on a coward. But Xian knew this was standard procedure in the underground. This was a sanctioned dark match. The organizers ensured no fighter ever truly died in the ring. That was why fights ended prematurely. Now it was time. The 530 million won gamble. Rookie Liang was about to shake the world. Prepare to be stunned. Sun Wu saw what others missed. The entire stadium had bet on the champion. They jeered at the fool who wasted a fortune on a nobody. But our main character was playing a long game. A victory meant 6 times the payout. Hongdu stepped into the ring, radiating arrogance. His opponent approached like a lamb to the slaughter. The size difference was comical. It was a mismatch of epic proportions. Even the announcers were baffled by Liang's frail frame. But Sun Wu was here for more than just gambling. There was a deeper agenda. The notorious villain syndicate Group Z was operating in the shadows, specifically a key figure named Midday. Sun Wu needed to witness this warrior's potential with his own eyes. The gong sounded. Suddenly doubt began to creep in. Had he made a terrible mistake? No, he knew the script. In the original novel, Liang was a legend who never tasted defeat. The champion scoffed at the insect before him. Deciding to end it quickly, he launched a devastating charge. His speed was blinding, yet the rookie sidestepped casually. But Hongdu was a veteran for a reason. A sledgehammer blow buried itself in the boy's gut. Breath left his body as he was launched into the concrete wall. Instant silence. The crowd erupted in bloodthirsty joy. Sun Wu felt a cold sweat. Had he just burned 500 million won? Outside, Beshgang's forces were closing in. They craved violence, but Hari's presence forced them to hold back. Provoking the demon boss was suicide. They checked the time, 10:30. Just enough time to ambush them at the exit. Back in the cage, it was a massacre. Liang was being dismantled piece by piece. Hongdu showed zero mercy. Shockwaves rippled through the air with every strike. The champion tossed the boy around like a rag doll. Liang collapsed his body, a canvas of purple and blue. His fighting spirit seemed extinguished. The arena chanted the champion's name, Sun Wu. Stared into the abyss of bankruptcy. It seemed over. But then, reality warped. A black thorn erupted from the boy's chest. The champion's triumph turned to horror. Liang stood up, broken but unbowed. The monster within had awakened. Hongdu roared, rushing in to crush him. But the hunter had become the prey. Sharp tendrils of dark energy exploded outward. The shadows pierced the champion's defenses effortlessly. A barrage of darkness overwhelmed him. The giant crashed to the floor. 5 obsidian spikes pinned him down, dripping with crimson. A terrified silence fell over the stadium. The crowd couldn't process the impossible. They screamed villain and cheat, but Sun Wu simply smiled. It was time to cash out. Xian scrambled after him. High above, Hari narrowed his eyes. Something about this didn't add up. The real game was just beginning. The air was thick with suspicion, and he knew it. Liang understood the truth. The champion's defeat wasn't just carelessness. He realized the gambler's reckless facade concealed a terrifying precision. Liang, cunning as a viper, had orchestrated everything from the shadows. He commanded the department head with a single order. Uncover every dirty secret buried in Kim Jin Woo's past. On the drive back, Han Xian was drowning in confusion. Who was this mysterious man, really? Yet he had predicted Liang's victory with the certainty of a prophet reading fate. With a poker face of steel, our protagonist simply shrugged. He called it a silly hunch, brushing off her doubts. But make no mistake, Sun Wu had just struck the legendary jackpot. The numbers on the screen defied logic. His account balance skyrocketed to a staggering 3 billion won. To think just yesterday, this young master had a pitiful 30,000 to his name. Isn't fate a funny thing? The world had flipped upside down. With this single miraculous feat, Seon Wu reclaimed the respect and trust he had lost. Eyes were watching him, now hungry for answers. Thanks to the shift in attention, the system chimed. 7,000 points secured. All the karma he had lost was flooding back. His senses sharpened, honing the skill to detect murderous intent. But the moment Sun Wu let his guard down, a chill ran down his spine. Despite the calm surface, a storm was brewing. A torrent of terrifying energy swirled nearby. It didn't make sense. This wasn't in the original storyline. The script had changed, and a demon seeking vengeance had entered the stage. Jiang Han sensed the anomaly immediately. Something was wrong. He turned to her, eyes serious, asking for a favor. Meanwhile, lurking in the shadows of the car, the assassin known as Red waited. The aura was suffocating. The driver was ordered to halt immediately. Red's killing intent was palpable. He intended to execute them right there. But when he stepped out, his target had vanished. Could Kim Jin Woo have eliminated the target? Impossible. His spiritual energy was pathetic. His body looked frail, like someone who had never held a sword in his life. Deception is a warrior's greatest weapon. Our protagonist revealed a hidden vial and drained every drop. As the glass shattered on the asphalt, he whispered a challenge to Red. Let's stop the games. That wasn't just water. It was a high-grade mana stimulant, a forbidden elixir capable of forcing evolution. Red's eyes widened in realization. You've been hunting me, haven't you, Red? Froze as the boy's aura exploded. The pressure was heavy, suffocating. It wasn't just a bluff anymore. The prey had bared its fangs. Impressive but futile, Red immediately withdrew, launching a lethal strike. But the boy weaved through it like smoke. He hurled a sphere of concentrated energy to counter. Red smirked. He was holding back his true power. He unleashed his secret technique, expecting panic. Chaos erupted. A deafening explosion tore through the silence of the night. Back in the car, he had realized the gears of fate were grinding. He sensed a tail. Someone was watching. The predator had become the prey. That's why he had prepared the mana potion. He calculated the variables. Was it the police? Or a rival faction from the Hansen group coming to finish the job? He lured the stalker to a dead end. This had to end tonight. He knew this opponent was dangerous. His magical power rippled with the intensity of a veteran killer. This enemy was far beyond B rank. Han Seon trembled, fear gripping her heart. But he looked her in the eye, radiating calm. Everything will be fine. Trust me. She chose to believe in his desperate gambit. Please come back alive. On the battlefield, the young master danced through the rain of blows like a phantom. Too easy. His movements were those of a seasoned master. The mana enhancement was holding. Red grit, his teeth frustrated that his target was only dodging, mocking him. Thinking the boy was cornered, Red surged forward, impossible speed. He closed the gap in a heartbeat, unleashing a strike meant to sever the soul. Missed by a millimeter. But time was the real enemy. The potion's effects would vanish in 2 minutes. He had to end this now, or die trying. Skill activation. Heart of the heavenly mother nature itself seemed to bow. Red recoiled, terrified by the sudden divine pressure radiating from the boy's core. Fear flickered in the assassin's eyes. Kim Jin-woo charged a clash of titans. The enemy realized too late that the situation had become fatal. He caught the lethal blow with his bare fist. Red gasped in disbelief. Seizing the opening, Jin-woo crashed into his guard, ignoring the weapon aimed at his head. A lightning-infused palm strike, straight to the heart. The assassin's defense shattered. Jin-woo saw the opening and unleashed a relentless barrage of attacks. He was broken, or so it seemed. Suddenly, the enemy lunged for a desperate kill shot. Fingers clamped around Jin-woo's throat like a vice. Death was knocking. The timer hit 0. The stimulant wore off. Mana depletion imminent in 30 seconds. The young master realized with horror he was completely done for. The assassin raised his blade, a twisted smile of victory on his face. This was the end. Suddenly, slash, a blade of pure light bisected the enemy from behind. The enemy fell like a puppet with cut strings. He gasped for air, alive. Standing there was his salvation. Jang Soo-ji, the S-class mage, the sword of the Hansen family. Fate had intervened. It was true. The notorious Baek gang had met his end at the hands of a true monster. Jin-woo looked up, relief washing over him. Jang Soo-ji, a top-tier legend from the original novel. She had obliterated an A-rank assassin with a single casual strike. Absolute dominance. Her eyes burned with fury. How dared they touch the Hansen bloodline? Han Seon rushed to his side, tears in her eyes, frantically checking for wounds. He waved off the concern, maintaining his composure. I'm fine, he lied. But his strategy worked. Stalling for reinforcements had been the winning move. She smiled, impressed by his grit. When your life is on the line, you cling to the strongest power available. That is the rule of survival. Baek gang was dead. The plot had fractured. Causality increased by 0.6%. And most importantly, he had secured the unwavering trust of the Hansen heir. Blue system windows filled his vision. A sigh of relief escaped his lips as the rewards poured in. Jang Soo-ji turned to them, her expression stern. Should we report this? Reporting to the chairman, no. A demonic attack was a catastrophe. If the world found out the Hansen group was targeted by dark forces, it would cause absolute chaos. He realized they had to bury this. This event was a deviation from the original novel, a butterfly effect he hadn't predicted. Exposure meant trouble. Complications they couldn't afford. Han Seon pleaded for silence and the S-class mage silently nodded in agreement. 3 days later, he lay sprawled on his bed scrolling through the news. It was time to collect the price for protecting the heiress. In exchange for his silence regarding Baek gang's death, she had promised him one thing. Information. He needed answers, and now was the time to cash in that favor. The news flashed across his screen, a beacon of change. Hans Joan had officially announced the commercialization of the miraculous herbal medicine, Analysts predicted the drug would revolutionize the medical world. Naturally, the stock prices were poised to explode. Our adolescent protagonist had bet everything, pouring his entire life savings into this one moment. Hansen Pharmaceuticals was the ticket to a new life. He held his breath as the market opened. In just 60 seconds, the charts painted a vertical line of pure gold. He stared, stunned by the reality of his success. It was overwhelming. Before his regression, before he turned back time, he couldn't even afford a decent meal, let alone a house. He remembered the dark days of digging in the mines. He had been a prisoner of poverty for a lifetime, never realizing the truth. Making money was actually this laughably easy. Yet a bitter taste lingered in his mouth. As night fell, the shadows of his past remained. Suddenly his phone buzzed. A message from the heiress Han Xian. She invited him to lunch the following day, promising a special reward. She had a gift waiting for him. This piqued his curiosity. The next day, he arrived at the venue well ahead of time, a habit from his old life. As they sat down, the conversation turned to his recent windfall from the stock market. The profits from the pharmaceutical surge were no secret. She leaned in, eyes gleaming with intrigue. "I'm curious," she teased. "Just how much did you rake in?" 50 million won. She expected a modest fortune. But the truth left her speechless. 3 billion won, he replied calmly. In a single day, he had amassed an empire's worth of wealth. She blinked, utterly confused by his foresight. "Consider this a small token of gratitude," she stammered, handing him a box. But he was more interested in the information she had promised earlier, the identity of the demon who had ambushed them. She dropped her voice, the air growing heavy. "We found him, the demon from our last mission. His name was Bak Gang. And shockingly, he was a known assassin in the underworld. This guest was infamous, a master of disguise who often posed as a child. But her investigation went deeper. She discovered a disturbing connection, someone who frequently contacted the killer. The trail led straight to her own bloodline. It was none other than Hans Shin's biological brother. She had suspected her brother mingled with unsavory types, but knowing he was in league with a demon named Bak Gang, that was a betrayal she hadn't foreseen. Our hero smirked internally. "This is getting interesting," he thought. However, he played it cool. That information is valuable, but is it enough to be called a gift? He realized that despite them saving each other's lives, she was still a calculating businesswoman. She understood his hesitation. The gift was not just an apology, it was a proposal. "I want to collaborate with you," she declared. The alliance was sealed. "We had to meet today," she explained, checking her watch. "I'm going to be very busy starting tomorrow." Her tone was ominous. He wondered if a storm was brewing in the corporate world. She revealed her resolve. Now that she knew her brother was the mastermind behind the attack, the gloves were off. It wasn't just about money anymore. She refused to live in debt or fear. Was it a favor she sought, or pure vengeance? She stood up to leave her silhouette, radiating determination. He watched her go, realizing she had slightly misunderstood the situation. Her brother wasn't just working with the gang. He was the villain behind it all. And ultimately, that brother would become a thorn in the protagonist's side as well. But this worked in his favor. He would use her fury to capture Han Sejin. It was an appealing strategy. Later that night, she called him again, her voice softer. She hoped the physical gift she chose would suit him. "Thank you," he said, opening the box. Inside lay a bracelet pulsing with ancient magical energy. As he touched it, a radiant smile bloomed on his face. Suddenly, a blue system window popped up in his vision. "Constellation. HR Young is intrigued by your potential. You have received 1,500 points as a reward." Meanwhile, in a high-rise office, the entity known as HR Young was reviewing reports. A subordinate named John H. entered, bowing respectfully. HR Young narrowed his eyes. "Are you here on behalf of the 10 Demon Society?" The pressure in the room spiked. John H. confirmed it, but he had a burning question first. "Regarding the incident a few days ago, my associate Zhang Han and the assassin Bak Gang were killed. Both cases involve a mysterious human sorcerer." John continued, sweat forming on his brow. "According to the final report, that sorcerer visited the arena recently." John H. hesitated before showing a photo. "Does the Honorable HR Yong know who this Kim Jin Yu person is?" He held up a picture of the protagonist. HR Yong glanced at the photo, then at the betting records. Recognition flashed in his eyes. This was him, the VIP customer who had bet on Liang and defied the odds. John H. pressed on, unaware of the danger. "Please provide information on this, Kim Jin Yu. If you do, I promise we will bury him in the blood of your deceased friends." HR Yong's expression darkened. The audacity of this request was unforgivable. "You want to touch him?" The air in the office began to tremble. His aura exploded outward, pinning John H. to the floor. "Prepare yourself," he roared. "If you dare to even think about harming my customer, you will face divine judgment." Terror seized John H. He immediately begged for forgiveness, promising the 10 demons would never touch the protagonist. He was just a messenger. H.R. Yong withdrew his killing intent. Speak. What is the message from the 10 demons? Trembling John H. explained the new prophecy. A revelation has descended from the altar of the immortal, he stammered. It concerns the year of the chosen children. Upon turning 18, they are destined to awaken. They will awaken the power to slay demons and become the king of all laws. The demon race was in a panic. The monk, their leader, was prophesied to meet his demise at these children's hands. H.R. Yong sighed, annoyed. The king of all laws. That old story again. He asked if there were any other details. John H. nodded frantically. According to the altar, the child of prophecy is 18 this year, and he is currently residing in the Hawk Magical Military Academy. The target had been located. Meanwhile, back at the Magic Military Academy, the protagonist decided to temporarily retire his persona as Kim Jin-yu. He couldn't stop thinking about the notification from H.R. Yong. Curiosity is fine, but getting involved now is dangerous, he mused. He left a magical scroll suspended in mid-air. There were more pressing matters to attend to in his student life. He grabbed the scroll, essentially a grimoire of high-tier magic, and unfolded it. Then reality hit him. The midterm exams were right around the corner. Students would have to demonstrate their skills before a panel of high-ranking officials. It was a significant event, a stage for the elite. This exam was closely linked to the development of Lee Sejun, the original hero. It made the stakes even higher. The child of prophecy. Lee Sejun, the future hero born with demon-slaying powers, would inevitably attract the demons' attention. It was just like the original storyline. The demons were planning to attack the school at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Their goal to eliminate the unawakened hero. While the heiress acted tough, Lee Sejun was about to face his destiny. Even the smallest ripples can cause a tidal wave. Although this event seemed minor, it held the keys to the future. Our protagonist knew he couldn't afford to miss a single detail. The prophecy of the child of destiny was already in motion. Suddenly, the instructor dropped a bombshell on the class. The dreaded midterm exams were upon them. No more theory, the teacher roared. My father always said true combat is the only real teacher. Your exam will be a test of survival and application. This year, the curriculum had shifted to autonomous resistance. The students gasped in horror. And for those who couldn't find a partner, they would be left to rot alone. Behind our hero, Yuara's eyes sparkled like stars. Just hearing the name Lee Jun was enough to set her heart racing. She realized destiny had aligned them perfectly. It was exactly like the original novel. But fate is a fickle mistress. Nobody else even looked his way. I'll join you, she offered, her voice steady. It made logical sense. Even though she was a genius in theory and problem-solving, nobody wanted to drag around the school's dead-last ranking. However, a smirk played on his lips. He already knew exactly who his partner would be. Nearby sparks flew between Park In-ho and Yuara. She sneered, challenging his pride. With your meager skills, you think you deserve the crown. That #1 spot belongs to me, he scoffed at her audacity. Don't get ahead of yourself, girl. I haven't even started trying yet. They clashed instantly. Meanwhile, Yunsong watched from the shadows. The elites were tearing each other apart in a display of dominance. The battle was suffocating. She turned away, unable to watch. Every second only deepened her own despair. No one wanted a burden like her. Rank 82. A library genius, but a liability on the battlefield. Our hero felt a twinge of pity, looking at her trembling back. It was a cruel curse. Her mana capacity couldn't match her brilliant mind. She was kind, but in this world, kindness doesn't kill monsters. She unleashed her magic, but it fizzled out uselessly. Humiliation burned in her chest, hotter than any fire. Despite her blood, sweat, and tears, effort means nothing without direction, he declared, stepping out of the shadows. Your training method is absolute trash. She whipped around, eyes wide with shock. He didn't hold back. That ice spear, it lacks killing intent. The accuracy is pathetic. Your foundation is crumbling. He knew he had to intervene. In the original plot, she was destined to rise to greatness, reaching rank 6 thanks to his advice during the dungeon arc. But because he had changed history, that timeline was erased. She missed her awakening and fell into darkness. He stepped closer, his presence looming like a mountain. You're missing the key. Partner with me, he said calmly. I'll make sure you survive. No, I'll make sure you can finally stand on your own. She bristled with indignation. Are you mocking me? She thought he was kicking her while she was down. She wanted to refuse, but you're angry because I'm right, he countered, cutting through her defenses. Stop lying to yourself. Her face flushed with shame and rage. I thought you were different, she spat, voice trembling. I thought you were a hero during the dungeon raid. I was wrong. He paused, intending to apologize, but her eyes screamed defiance. Fine. If you doubt me, then attack me. Witness the truth yourself. Show me what the worst student can handle. He smirked internally. Good. The fire in her eyes was finally back. Come at me with everything you have. She didn't hesitate. Shards of razor-sharp ice filled the air. He shifted his stance. He danced through the storm effortlessly. And in that moment she saw it. The shift in his aura was terrifying. He was a different person entirely. Is that all? He roared. What is the purpose of this magic? Why are you casting it? You think ice magic is weak. Wrong. Its power lies in versatility. He taunted her, pushing her to the absolute brink. Watch closely. Desperate, she channeled every ounce of mana into one strike. The ground shook, yet he stepped aside like a ghost. She froze. Impossible. No amount of textbook study could explain that movement. She had trained so hard, yet he was untouchable. Again, he sat calmly on a chunk of her own ice. To awaken a sleeping dragon, sometimes you have to poke it hard. He had to break her shell completely. She screamed in frustration, preparing another volley. A spectator yelled, "Are you playing games? Stop dodging and fight back." The crowd was restless. He sighed, hopping off the ice. Fine. Lesson over. Mages like you have one fatal flaw, he lectured, closing the gap instantly. Once a warrior gets inside your guard, it's checkmate. He flashed in front of her. The pressure of his fist cracked the air. She flinched, but the blow stopped an inch from her nose. That was a real fight, he said softly. She collapsed to her knees, trembling. She had been utterly dominated. Teach me, she whispered, tears forming. I don't know how to use my power. He smiled. That's all I needed to hear. She looked up, hope warring with fear. She took his hand. I trust you. Make me strong. Asterisk. Ding asterisk. System alert, character Yunsong's affection has increased. She is now intrigued by you. We start with adaptive training, he declared, tossing her a glowing cube. Magic isn't about memorization. It starts with feeling the element. You must understand the core attribute before you can command the spell. Without the basics, your mana is just noise. Your growth will stop right here unless you change everything. She nodded slowly. She understood the theory of adaptive attributes, but wait, isn't that something you usually do in a bathtub? Absolute zero. He couldn't move a muscle. The sensory pill forces the body to understand the very nature of magic. It was a dangerous gamble, but for her, it was the only way. Adaptation had to be instantaneous. Meanwhile, shadows gathered in a derelict building. Inside the darkness, John H. broke the silence. Are all the pieces on the board? The report was clear. The demon squad was assembled. Their mission was to infiltrate the haunted academy grounds. The objective: assassinate the child of prophecy. Timing was everything. Their mole within the faculty had confirmed the intel. During the midterm exams, the magical security barriers would be at their weakest. The squad was bloodthirsty, ready to slaughter. But one voiced a concern. What about the Dragon Clan's involvement? John H. scoffed at the hesitation. That alliance is dead in the water. The Dragon Clan is too busy fighting for its own survival to care about us. But Yang Jun was trembling. Fear gripped his heart. Killing the descendant of an immortal. With just 4 B-rank demons. It wasn't a mission. It was suicide. His comrades smirked at his cowardice. Do you really need hand-holding for one brat? The leader snapped back. The lax security isn't an open door. It just means the initial entry is easy. But beware. Guild scouts will be swarming the campus like vultures. One mistake, and it is over. I will handle the heavy lifting personally. If we isolate the interlopers within a barrier, the entire battlefield changes in our favor. John H. laid out the endgame. Inside the Great Demon Barrier, you are gods. Unleash your bloodlust. Slaughter without mercy. The order was absolute. That child must die no matter the cost. Back at the academy, our protagonist was pushing Yun to her limits. He guided her to internalize the freezing cold. Imagine the ice not as a cage, but as a part of you. Visualize the statue emerging from the frost. She channeled her mana, focusing every ounce of will. It coalesced into a razor-sharp ice spear. She gazed at her creation, swelling with pride. This was her power, her ice brand. Even the protagonist was impressed. To master this in mere days, her growth rate was monstrous. He always knew she was special. She is a true prodigy. Suddenly, the system chimed. Her trust in him had solidified. Reward unlocked 1,500 bonus points. I will follow your lead blindly from now on. She begged for more ice, ignoring her limits. But he saw the tremors in her hands. She was in agony. Yet he pushed her further. This pain was the forge for her power. He was molding her into the perfect teammate. She shook uncontrollably as the cold bit deep. But they weren't alone. A shadow lingered in the hallway. Silent. Watchful. Lee Seol-jun watched with narrowing eyes. Was this training? Or was it abuse? This is a prestigious academy, not a torture chamber. Is a noble house scion bullying a weaker student, forcing her into the ice? Unforgivable. He turned to report this atrocity instantly, but teacher Lee Hyeon was already there. She stepped out of the shadows, projecting the scene. Is this what has you so worked up? You are witnessing a high-level attribute training session. She wasn't surprised by the intensity, not in the slightest. I have been monitoring them since day one. In an impossibly short time, her magical efficiency has skyrocketed. Yoon is talented, yes, but the real shock is the instructor. His judgment is flawless. He understands the core of magic better than most professors. He is guiding her through the bottleneck. Teacher Lee was intrigued. You know him. I thought the great Lee Seo Jein only noticed top-tier heiresses. Seo Jein was caught off guard. He stammered, trying to explain. But the teacher cut him off. Kim Sun-woo holds terrifying potential. Remember that name. Seo Jein scoffed internally. Him. The dead last ranker of the entire year. However, the teacher had one doubt. Why focus solely on others if he spends all his energy raising her? In this world, only results matter. She tapped her chin thoughtfully. Perhaps it is time to test his mettle. The midterms would be his stage. Meanwhile, our protagonist was in despair. He desperately needed a spatial bag. The price tag, 20,000 points. His balance, a measly 8,500. Yet the item was essential for instant summoning. Infinite storage. Combat versatility. It was currently 50% off. But even at half price, he was still short. He cursed his luck. Why does the sale of the century happen when he is flat broke? He needed 11,500 points. 5 days. Legal methods only. Impossible. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Summons from teacher Lee Hyeon. Report to the faculty office immediately. When he arrived, the elite were waiting. Yuara, Park In-hwan, and him. The atmosphere was heavy. Teacher Lee dropped the bomb. You three have been nominated for the special manifestation class. Forget your ranks. This is an elite course for those with raw, explosive potential. Our protagonist's mind raced. Access to the special class means rapid growth. It was the perfect opportunity. But Park In-hwan slammed his hand on the desk. He couldn't accept it. Why is trash sitting next to treasure? He glared at the protagonist with pure venom. I am ranked 5th in the entire academy, and you want to group me with the dead last loser. It's an insult. He looked to Yuara for support, but the Ice Princess didn't care. She remained silent. Not her business. Not her problem. Park In-hwan was stunned by the rejection, and that is exactly why she has 0 friends. The teacher turned her gaze to Kim Sun-woo. Do you have a rebuttal to his objection? Park In-hwan sneered. Sun-woo met his gaze calmly. If rank is your only god, then I will ascend. Prove it, the teacher challenged. In the midterms. I will pierce the top 80. He turned to leave, confidence radiating from him. The pieces were falling into place. The stage was set perfectly. As predicted, the second-year midterm exam was declared a team battle. Students had to form pairs to face the summoned green giant. But victory required more than brute force. They had to target the core. However, this core shifted its position constantly, making it nearly impossible to locate. That was the catch. It was the reason most students only achieved average scores. Only true geniuses could identify the weakness and obliterate the monster instantly. Lee Jun was already in the spotlight. He danced through the battlefield, slashing the flying monster and earning thunderous applause. Meanwhile, our protagonist stepped forward, eyes set on the summit. It was time to shed his disguise and show his true colors. He channeled his mana, locking onto the giant. Laughter rippled through the crowd, mocking the student who had failed before. To them, his enrollment was a scandal. They watched with bated breath, eager to see him humiliated once again. But a notification rang in his mind, 1,000 bonus points received. He wasn't startled by the giant. He was calculating his reward. No more hiding his strength. He would strike the shifting weak point instantly and end this charade in a single breath. As the second giant roared and charged, the battle flowed smoother than he had ever anticipated. It was almost too easy. Just as he prepared the finishing blow, John appeared, breaking his concentration. The rhythm shattered instantly. The crowd began to murmur criticisms, even as they acknowledged the difficulty. Cold sweat trickled down his spine as the situation spiraled. Who was behind this interference? He realized with horror that the demon invasion timeline was shifting. It wasn't supposed to be 4 o'clock. Distracted by the terrifying future, he missed the giant preparing a crushing blow. But his teammate was ready. Ice magic surged, freezing the monster's arm. Ha-eun rushed to snap him out of his trance, grabbing his shoulder. Regaining focus, he unleashed a devastating counter, obliterating the second giant. The stadium went silent. Silence exploded into deafening cheers. The system pinged wildly, showering him with massive rewards for the victory. Notifications flooded his vision. His teammate embraced him in victory, praising his incredible reflexes and power. But he couldn't celebrate. The exam results didn't matter. The timeline had officially deviated from the original story. A chill ran through him. Was his mere presence rewriting history? The flow of destiny was changing before his eyes. Seeing his pale face, Ha-eun asked if he was okay, mistaking his existential dread for sudden attraction or exhaustion. He wiped the sweat away, feigning weakness to escape. She immediately blamed herself, thinking she had pushed him too hard. He gently reassured her that she had been perfect. Blushing at the compliment, she insisted he skip practice to recover. Rest would have to wait. Our young hero had other plans. He needed to investigate how badly the timeline had fractured. Walking outside to clear his head, he spotted Lee Jun swarmed by a legion of adoring fans. It was a chaotic scene. Recruiters were begging the top student to sign with their guilds, immediately ignoring everyone else. Despite being 18 and too young to officially join, the recruiters were relentless. Money and fame were on the table. They shoved business cards in his face aggressively. Seeing the mess, our protagonist decided to intervene. He loudly claimed the teacher was calling for them. The crowd parted, stunned to see the lowest-ranked student acting so bold. Lee Jun caught on quickly, using the excuse to apologize and escape the suffocating mob alongside him. Watching from the shadows, the Special Task Force leader analyzed the footage, eyes wide with surprise. That movement. It was reminiscent of Master Jin, the leader of the strongest mage guild. The resemblance was uncanny, but the file said he had zero practical experience. The captain narrowed his eyes at the blatant contradiction. He ordered a full investigation. There was something unnatural about Sun Wu's presence during the demon incident at the riverbank. If he truly defeated that demon alone, the power dynamic of the entire school was about to shift permanently. His subordinate scoffed, calling the boy a low-level extra. But the captain shook his head slowly. That kid dismantled the monster's defense with a single glance. That is the instinct of a seasoned war veteran. The subordinates were stunned. It was impossible for a mere high schooler to possess such battle-hardened insight. Yet the captain couldn't shake the feeling. The boy's aura was terrifyingly similar to the legendary hunter Jin Woo. They decided to keep a close watch on this anomaly. Meanwhile, the scene shifted back to the students. The two boys slipped through a side entrance, finally shaking off the persistent recruiters and the chaos outside. They blended into the crowd to watch the next round, but our protagonist remained on high alert, scanning every shadow. The demons could strike at any moment. Because of the timeline shift, his foreknowledge was now useless. He had to adapt instantly. The seniors' match was beginning, and the real nightmare was just around the corner. Lurking in the shadows, the undercover demoness reported back to John H. When he demanded an update on her performance, she revealed a chilling truth about the devices. Monster summoning artifacts had been hidden throughout the academy. However, because the beast known as Jin was too volatile, he was stationed far from the kill zone. The demon lord smiled, a wicked satisfaction gleaming in his eyes. With a dark magic orb floating above his palm, he finally triggered the catastrophic sequence. It was a brutal hunt designed to flush out the chosen one. Meanwhile, inside the exam hall, Senior Trang-hun displayed absolute dominance. Minya readied a devastating finishing strike. But at the last second, her opponent surrendered, handing the victory to the senior. Witnessing such power, Sun Yu stood frozen in awe. He was completely overwhelmed by the magnificent display of skill. He praised their tactical brilliance and sharp reflexes. Yet our protagonist looked utterly bored, his mind seemingly elsewhere. The match was over, but the demon lord was missing. When Sun Yu asked who he was searching for, the hero played innocent. Just checking for guild scouts, he lied smoothly. Sun Yu smiled, noting how much stronger the hero had become since the semester began. He marveled at such rapid progress in so little time. But suddenly, their conversation was cut short by a disturbance. A massive purple barrier materialized, enveloping the entire exam hall. The sudden fluctuation of mana terrified our hero. This catastrophe never happened in the first timeline. As panic set in, the students began to scramble in confusion. Desperate cries for the teachers filled the air. But as the barrier expanded, the hidden monster devices began to crack open. Dimensional rifts tore open the fabric of space. A horde of monsters poured into the arena, hungry for blood. It looked like a banquet, and the students were the main course. The loudspeakers blared urgent evacuation orders as the nightmare began. As the chaos spread, the demon lord reveled in his brilliance. His barrier was a cage from which there was no escape. Trapped inside, the chosen one would have no choice but to reveal their power to survive. It was the perfect trap. But his grin faded as he watched someone tearing the monsters apart. Disappointment washed over him. The Special Task Force had returned too soon. It turned out the elite squad had come to observe Sung's match. But now their mission had changed to crisis management. If they handled the beasts, everyone might survive. Our hero wondered if Captain Deokyeonun himself had arrived. This was a stroke of luck. With the task force here, the hero finally had a chance to launch a counterattack. Yet the massive barrier remained an enigma. He had never encountered such magic in his past life. The school mages tried to breach it but failed. They realized they needed at least an A-rank sorcerer to make a dent, but high-ranking mages were rare gems. Finding one would take at least 30 minutes time they did not have. Our hero knew the grim truth. A barrier created by a world-class monster like John H. could not be easily broken. For normal mages, it was impossible. He realized he had no choice but to intervene personally. Suddenly, the disguised demon stepped forward to offer aid. Our hero wanted to punch that deceitful smirk right off her face, but he couldn't accuse her without evidence. Using her silver tongue, she quickly convinced the desperate teachers. She began weaving a complex spell, pretending to dismantle the barrier. Sun Yu sighed in relief, completely fooled by the act. Our hero silently dragged his friend into the shadows. Meanwhile, the demon lord sensed a disturbance in his plan. Instead of breaking, the barrier was being reinforced from the inside. John H. realized someone had seen through the trap. To cover her tracks, the demoness signaled for a distraction. Goblins were immediately dispatched to cause chaos. A goblin lunged at the disguised demon. But in a flash, the task force captain obliterated the beast with a single blow. The demon feigned gratitude, maintaining her innocent student persona. While she continued her fake spell, the agents formed a defensive line. Agent Hunsu swore on his honor to protect her with his life. The irony was palpable. They were guarding the very monster destroying them. The venomous snake smiled, a sinister gleam hidden behind her mask of gratitude. Her deception was perfect. Far from the crowd, Sun Yu finally demanded answers. Why had the hero dragged him to this desolate corner? The hero needed solitude to unleash his power. Sun Yu was baffled, trusting the teachers and that witch over his friend. Our protagonist dropped the bombshell. The helper was actually a demon, strengthening the barrier from within. Shocked, Sun Yu wanted to alert the teachers immediately. But the hero stopped him with a shake of his head. They won't believe us without proof, he explained. He needed Sun Yu to be his witness for what came next. Once the barrier was shattered, people would believe the genius student over anyone else. It was a gamble on his reputation. He summoned a massive magic circle, analyzing the barrier's formula in seconds. It was a display of god-tier calculation. In less than a minute, the impenetrable barrier was completely neutralized. Everyone in the arena froze in absolute shock. But our hero brushed off the legendary feat as if it were nothing. Tell everyone, he commanded Sun Yu. The real show is just starting. The crisis had been averted, but the mystery remained unsolved. Sun Wu demanded to know the truth behind the man's desperate struggle. He had to maintain the facade, the strength required to ensure not a single soul detected his true cultivation. The world could not know the monster lurking within him. He was content with this ordinary life, this fleeting peace. Please, he whispered, to the shadows, let this secret remain buried between the two of us. Meanwhile, tension suffocated the air inside the examination hall. John H. stormed in his aura, blazing with suppressed fury. His subordinates were incompetent fools, unable to execute even the simplest command without blundering. In stark contrast, waves of relief washed over the others. The instructor and Yun exchanged bows of deep gratitude, believing the worst was over. But with the formalities finished, the time for pleasantries had ended. It was time to grind the beasts into dust. These were no mere educators. They were battle-hardened lunatics, true killing machines disguised as teachers. The special task force had arrived to paint the walls red. Chaos subsided far faster than anyone anticipated, leaving an eerie silence. Even the captain had to admit defeat on one front. They were completely blind regarding the puppet master pulling the strings. Their primary directive shifted immediately: hunt down the mysterious entity responsible. Just as they formulated a plan, the teaching assistant shattered the atmosphere, storming into the conversation with wild eyes. It was the most shocking twist of the entire ordeal. She seized Yang Jun by the collar, her knuckles white with rage, and demanded he reveal his true intentions right then and there. What happened to the barrier? He stammered, begging her to lower her voice since Yun was merely a student. But she wouldn't be silenced. Her voice cracked like a whip as she screamed her accusation. Yun is a demon in disguise. The words struck like a physical blow. Poor Yun crumbled, tears streaming down her face, while a heavy blanket of discomfort settled over the crowd at the instructor's cruelty. It was an insult to those who had bled for this mission. Agent Hunshu signaled for permission to engage, his muscles tense, but the captain held up a hand. Hold your position, he ordered. Not yet. The undercover fiend sneered at the faculty, reveling in the chaos. She declared the operation a failure, mocking the shattered barrier and claiming her refusal to cooperate had doomed them all. She ridiculed their trash-tier abilities with venomous arrogance. But at that precise moment, our protagonist stepped into the fray to deliver divine justice. He turned calmly to the instructor. Doesn't the barrier reinforce itself cyclically, he asked. She had tried to dismantle it and failed miserably. The entire room froze, eyes widening as they realized he and the teacher were on a different level. The officer stood dumbfounded. How could a mere student grasp the arcane mechanics of the incident? With cool confidence, our boy began to dismantle the mystery piece by piece. They had found a massive breach in the mana barrier. He quickly concocted a lie to protect his cover, claiming he had simply stumbled upon the formula by pure luck. A stroke of genius disguised as coincidence. Hearing his logic, the crowd's gaze shifted. Their killing intent locked onto the true snake in the grass. Realizing the deceit, they began to scan the magical signatures in the room. Was there truly an A-rank mage named Yoon among them? The question hung like a guillotine blade. Trapped in a desperate dilemma, Yang-jun felt the walls closing in his options, vanishing by the second. But the villain had one final desperate card to play. As his cover disintegrated, the Special Forces leader's eyes narrowed. The puzzle pieces clicked into place. The traitor was standing right in front of them. They identified the culprit, but before the agents could shackle him, he communed with the Demon Lord. In a swirl of dark energy, he vanished into thin air, leaving only shock in his wake. The atmosphere turned grave. They weren't dealing with a petty criminal, but a catastrophic A-class demon threat. Suddenly, Sun Wu's sharp eyes caught movement. Yang-jun was activating his final trump card. Hell broke loose. Demonic entities materialized from the shadows, flooding the crowd. The snake trader's body contorted, expanding into a grotesque titanic behemoth towering over the students. He roared, intent on slaughtering as many humans as possible before his body gave out. But in his bloodlust, he made a fatal calculation. He chose the one target he should never have provoked. Faster than lightning, Sun Wu drew his blade. A single unseen slash, the devil's boastful tongue was silenced in an instant. Immediately, the special forces and teachers swarmed in to mop up the filth. The remaining demons were crushed without mercy. As the dust settled, Sun Wu offered a nod of thanks. It turned out Captain Deok-kun wasn't just an officer, he was family, an uncle from a distant memory. "We crossed paths a year ago," the captain recalled with a grin. He thanked the young hero for his decisive aid, promising that the bounty for the kill would be substantial. But the nightmare wasn't over elsewhere. A chilling presence. Jun was on the hunt outside. His prey fled in blind panic terror, gripping their hearts as death nipped at their heels. An explosion rocked the area, forcing them to double back. He believed himself the chosen one, but reality was cruel. Near the chaos, Hung's friend threw herself into harm's way to shield her companion. The deranged demon scoffed, utterly disappointed by their frailty. "Is this it?" he sneered. Her resistance was pathetic, unworthy of her illustrious reputation. He wondered if she was even trying. Perhaps the trembling girl clinging to her was a burden. He dragged her down, mocking their bond. The emperor of this small battlefield raged furious at the weakness displayed before him. In this living nightmare, she tried to be the shield. She whispered reassurances, screaming at her friend to flee to survive. But her legs wouldn't move. She couldn't leave her behind. How do mere mortals fight a monster? Jin didn't give them time to think. He dashed through the flames like a phantom, his grip tightening around her throat, a twisted pervert reveling in the violence. He licked his lips, intoxicated by the scent of top-grade mana coursing through her veins. Just as she was about to lose consciousness, Hung fired one last, desperate bolt of energy. "Let her go, you monster," she screamed. "She's not food for a beast like you." But the bastard only threw his head back and laughed maniacally at her futile defiance. She was willing to die to save her friend. As he charged a lethal beam to end it all, the fragile girl defied all logic. She didn't break, she unleashed a ferocious counterattack. Empowered by the unbreakable bond of friendship, her strike flew true. The demon froze, eyes bulging as his entire arm was severed from his body. But the pain wasn't what terrified him. It was the wound it refused to regenerate. He stared in horror, wondering what ancient power she had tapped into. This was no ordinary ice magic. It was something far more lethal. Her peaceful days were over. Jin's shock twisted into a wide, predatory grin. He realized the truth, the demon-slaying power he sought. He had finally found the child of prophecy. The prophecy excitement trembled in his voice. He prepared to slaughter her himself to claim the glory. But suddenly a cold voice cut through the air, stopping him cold. "That won't be happening today." Big Brother had arrived. Stepping out of the void just in time, he declared that the only one dying today was the filth standing before him. She was furious at the beast who dared sever her hair. She unleashed a torrent of dark magic, a horizontal wave of destruction. But for our hero, it was child's play to deflect. He casually raised a magic shield, absorbing the impact before retaliating instantly. A barrage of magic bullets rained down like a meteor shower. A magnificent display of dominance, the enemy trembled before the ocean of mana this mere student possessed. "You may have power," the hero intoned, "but I have eons of experience." It was time for the finale. Sensing his end, Jin rallied his last ounce of strength, charging like a rabid dog. If he was going to die, he would drag everyone down to hell with him. But his desperation was futile against a true hero. The strike landed with surgical precision, obliterating the enemy completely. Target eliminated. System message, greetings player. System message. Congratulations on defeating the enemy. Your karma score has skyrocketed. The laws of causality acknowledge your feat. You have obtained the title Pure Savior. They had survived the night. But despite her sudden awakening, the danger was far from over. The demon race would not stop their assault. The Academy knew the truth, however. Sun Wu believed this trial was necessary. Haidong and the others needed to grow to forge strength from adversity. Meanwhile, in the hospital ward, Ara scanned the news reports about Sun Wu. The media hailed them as heroes, who protected the Academy during the demon attack. But to Ara, those words tasted like ash. To be praised for survival wasn't heroism. It was a weakness. You were useless, she told herself. Powerless. Even though the nurse assured her she had done well, the words felt hollow as she was ordered back to her hospital bed. Go rest. Her friends reminded her that Ara had supposedly saved them, but she knew the truth. She had barely escaped the demon's claws only to faint like a clown. Pathetic. The hospital stay stretched on, giving them too much time to think now that exams were over. Finally, she broke the silence, asking Haidong about the battle. Why didn't you run? Ara asked. We aren't even close friends. It didn't make sense. Why risk her life for a rival? Haidong replied timidly. In that moment, who cares about status? I would do the exact same thing again. Haidong's eyes softened. I remember a kind person who once saved me, back when I had no one left in this world. I vowed to become that kind of person for others. That singular determination gave her the strength to confront the demon. She looked at Ara gently. There is no shame in asking for help, Ara, especially in times of crisis. But those innocent words struck a nerve. Ara's mood instantly darkened. Help. The word sounded like an insult. Memories of the past flooded back. The fire. Her childhood home consumed by flames. Her parents trapped beneath the burning debris. She had been in such a state of shock that strangers had to drag her away. The little girl screamed, unable to bear, leaving her father. Her mother watched helplessly as the fire took them one by one. Shaking off the nightmare, Ara snapped, I don't need anyone's help, but Haidong countered gently, we have little choice. Above all, we should thank our benefactor, Sun Wu. Neither of us would be here if not for him. Ara froze. Sun Wu. That nobody. She demanded an explanation, her pride stinging. What do you mean? Why don't you ask him yourself? Haidong pointed. As if summoned, our protagonist climbed through the window curtains waving awkwardly. Yo, just passing through, he lied. I have something for you. He held out a thick envelope. It was the reward money for slaying the demon. Ara was speechless. Why give this to me? You're the one who killed it. It didn't make sense. He was the slayer. He deserved the glory. I just landed the final hit, he shrugged, admitting the kill but deflecting the credit. The demon was already weakened thanks to your attacks. I just cleaned up the mess. Ara tried to refuse, her pride flaring up. But he wouldn't budge. Fine, she snapped. If you're going to be annoying, share it with Haidong too. But before he could leave, Ara turned away, her face burning red. And, thank you. For protecting me? It was clumsy, but the bridge was built. Suddenly, the system pinged. Notification favorability increased. Maybe being a little pushy worked after all. Her score increased, depositing a nice chunk of bonus points. Haidong smiled, knowing her friend well. Don't mind her attitude. It's just her high pride getting in the way. Just high self-esteem, Sun Wu thought. Finally, he had enough points, 20,000, to purchase the dimensional inventory. Meanwhile, out in the hallway, Era's mind raced. Sun Wu is a liar, she thought. That demon's hide was impenetrable, yet he sliced it like butter. She remembered it clearly. He hadn't just gotten lucky. He single-handedly eliminated a catastrophic threat. But his records showed no combat aptitude. Fighting wasn't his forte, or so he claimed. The school calls him a theory genius. They say Haidong's growth is just luck. But Ara saw the pattern, the divine speed, the precision. She wondered why a monster like that would pretend to be a sheep. Why blend into the crowd when you hold the power of a king? The only reason to remain silent is fear. Is his family being held hostage? Her imagination ran wild. Back in the room, Sun Wu turned to Haidong. Are you going to reveal your awakening powers? He asked. They hadn't discussed the cover story yet. The girl shook her head. Revealing it now brings danger, not glory, she agreed. I want to become strong quietly. Independent. One day, I will be a true demon slayer. Sun Wu grinned. This was perfect. Haidong had awakened months ahead of the original timeline. This changed everything. With this head start, she could evolve into a devastating weapon. A key piece in the coming war against the Demon King. All right, he declared, eyes gleaming. I'll design a hellish training regimen for you. Just name your price. Feel free to ask for anything. Haidong tugged his sleeve, her face flushing. Sun Wu, I heard you rushed to find me the moment the barrier fell. You came straight for me, she whispered, eyes full of hope. Is there a special reason? Sun Wu grasped her hands firmly, looking deep into her eyes. Of course not, there's absolutely nothing romantic about it. I saw your potential during midterms. When the explosion hit, I just didn't want to lose a valuable asset. Haidong's soul seemed to leave her body. Oh, she squeaked. He laughed oblivious. Why were you expecting a confession? Steam practically rose from her ears. No way, she stammered, waving her hands frantically. Just a joke. Unexpectedly, the innocent girl had fallen hard. But Sunwoo knew the script. She was a main heroine, and main heroines don't date NPCs like him. Ignoring her dejected look, she handed him a thick envelope. Here, tuition fees, she said, composing herself. I look forward to your guidance, instructor. Deal, I'll turn you into a demon-slaying machine starting tomorrow morning. He checked his phone and froze. Transfer received 15 million won. His jaw hit the floor. Being a tutor paid better than saving the world. Finally, our hero had ascended to the special talent class. For the first time in my life, I stood on equal ground. I was walking among the chosen elites. Now I can reshape the future with my own hands. But peace is a luxury. The moment I took my seat, the blonde noble sneered, looking at me like filth. The rats are crawling out of the sewers, he spat. His disgust for a loser was palpable. He mocked me, claiming a scavenger dares to sit beside royalty. But our young master remained ice cold. He simply stated he had met every requirement the academy demanded. Equality. That triggered him. The blonde exploded, threatening to throw me out personally. Leave before I make you, he roared. Suddenly, a cold voice cut through the noise. So Yoon spoke up, and the class fell silent. She argued with lethal logic. He isn't ruining the average, she noted, eyes, scanning the data. Check the mana scores. His specs dwarf yours. Theoretically, you are the dead weight here. Her words shattered his pride. The truth sent the blonde idiot into a frenzy. He screamed, "You stupid girl." The class watched, stunned that the queen acknowledged a nobody. Logic failed, so violence followed. He threw a cowardly sucker punch. Cheap. But I caught his fist with casual ease. I squeezed until bone grated on bone. Rage poured off him, but my grip was iron. Heat radiated from my hand, invisible flames flickering around my knuckles. Before he could react, I shut him down. I slammed him headfirst into the ground. He lay there, measuring the floor tiles in a humiliating heap. Right there in front of the elite. Dominance established. Suddenly, the special task force burst in. A surprise inspection for the gifted class. Agent Hunsu stepped forward, grinning. Nice show, he murmured to me. Save that genius for the real test. Midterms. A polite word for hell. I wondered if his casual greeting masked a deeper intent. This man was dangerous. Headquarters sent me, he announced. Because a demon is hiding in this academy. The atmosphere froze. His mission was a mole hunt. A devil wearing a human face. The agent didn't waste time with pleasantries. Chaos erupted. Students clamored. Do we fight the demon? Are we drafted into the force? Excitement buzzed in the air. Instructor Hunsu laughed. Amateurs like you would die in seconds. He crushed their fantasies. That is why. We start with reconnaissance. The target zone was monster territory. Dangerous, unpredictable, and perfect for weeding out the weak. Speak up if you sense anything vile, he ordered. In reality, this was a controlled stage. A training ground built on old ruins. An ancient prison tunnel cleared out long ago. Or so they thought. Magical surveillance eyes watched every corner. These students were precious assets after all. But I knew the truth. The rat is definitely in this class. My knowledge of the future confirmed it. Every move of the special forces was predicted. But the insider is smart. He will stay cloaked in shadows. However, my focus was elsewhere. The S-class treasure. Hidden in the dungeon's secret chamber. I needed it. And I needed to help Seo Jein, as she was key to this arc. The instructor announced the pairings. 2-man squads. I planned to stick to the original timeline script. But fate is a fickle mistress. I realized that my presence had shuffled the deck. The lottery results flashed. I had stolen the original protagonist's partner. So Yoon. The Ice Queen looked baffled. She couldn't understand why I looked disappointed to be paired with perfection like her. The other boys glared with killing intent. They would kill to guard their queen. She, however, was lost in thought. She assumed a legend like June would be her partner. Was she a burden to me? Then she looked at her senior, who looked painfully ordinary. She wasn't satisfied. Regardless, the mission commenced. I walked away without a word. I trailed behind her, silent as a shadow. She seemed relieved I wasn't fawning over her like the others. Yet skepticism clouded her eyes. How did the bottom feeder suddenly ascend to the heavens? My rapid promotion to the talent class put her on guard. A notification chimed in my mind. System. Her curiosity towards you is evolving. Bonus points awarded. I didn't care. Her gaze was drilling a hole in the back of my skull for the last hour. I shattered the silence. Let's investigate over there. I pointed into the gloom. The sharp-witted girl smiled. She laughed, pretending to be the happy junior. Sure, Sunbae. But internally, she was analyzing my every breath. Her aura was intense. It surprised me. Behind that smile lay a tactician's mind, plotting her next move. I knew what she was thinking. In the original timeline, she desperately wanted to team up with the hero for clout. Her voice rose, masking her intent. She planned to use this mission to get closer to the sun, not a shadow like me. She started small talk. It's impressive, really. Going from the bottom to the special class in a single semester, her tone shifted. Subtle. Dangerous. But staying here is harder than getting here, she said calmly, especially with enemies on your back. She scrutinized me. Choi So-yoon, blessed by the heavens, with beauty and power. She was born with a silver spoon and the starting loadout of a true prodigy. But the dark secret hidden behind that veil of gentle perfection lies in the crushing, unreasonable standards her family forced upon her. That pressure twisted her soul. It transformed her into a fearsome manipulator appearing, benevolent to the masses, while keeping only the useful few within her inner circle. She mastered exactly what it takes to survive. In the cutthroat world of high society. Breaking the silence, Sun Yu asked with genuine curiosity, "What is your definition of an enemy?" The girl bluntly explained that he was too blind to realize there are sharks swimming around him. I have no patience for your presence in the outer class of Iwan. Yet his confidence remained unshaken. He countered that those distinctions were meaningless illusions. What does that truly mean to you? The only path I walk is the one that fulfills my purpose. This is a class apart. Hearing his conviction, So-yoon was dragged back into a memory. The scene where her father commanded her to be silent and simply follow the path he paved without question. Miss So-yoon felt a wave of inexplicable melancholy wash over her. To think others possessed things like personal ambition and a life of their own. Suddenly she understood why the instructors favored him. It all made sense. Her curiosity about his conviction deepened. What is the true meaning of life to you? Just as she asked. A sharp, murderous aura spiked in the air. It surged from their blind spot. Acting on instinct, he seized her hand and pulled her into his embrace, shielding her from the scorching ambush. The assailant was none other than the blonde agitator Pi 1, a man with a flat brain. He sneered, claiming this was his opportunity. The only way for you to leave this class alive is to vanish by tomorrow. Unfazed, our hero provocatively asked what he planned to do if he simply refused to comply. Yan, consumed by volcanic rage, unleashed a torrential downpour of magic. The spells rained down on the duo like the strikes of a madman. Meanwhile, the monitoring team observed the students through his spectral vision. The data was interpreted from multiple angles. The female mage assisted, wondering if a demonic entity was truly hiding within. These children showed no signs of corruption. She reported to Hyunsu that the mana flow was stable. Nothing unusual here. They are simply engaging in combat training with monsters. Despite the report, Hyunsu remained skeptical about the demon's presence. I will contact the higher-ups if the seal is compromised. He ordered her to focus on the perimeter. Who was attempting to exit the training zone? Suddenly, an anomaly caught her eye on one of the feeds. 3 signatures flared. The students were clashing with the ferocity of a life-or-death duel. On the battlefield, he acknowledged that Yan's casting speed was impressive, abnormally fast, backed by undeniable skill. Surprisingly competent for someone with a trash personality. According to his tactical assessment, he ordered Seo-yoon to retreat from the kill zone, but that command only fueled the blonde idiot's fury. It crushed his fragile ego to see her obeying another. She screamed, exposing his deep-seated inferiority complex. First it was Sungri, and now Sun Yu. Ugh, how pathetic, the blonde mage. Completely lost his sanity at the mention of the woman. Even his own queen had sided with Sun Yu. Instead of him roaring, he summoned violent tornadoes. The raging inferno shattered even the surveillance magic mirror nearby. Hyunsu immediately braced himself. Initiate protocol. He vowed not to let a single student fall under his supervision. Yin shouted in panic, warning that intervening now could compromise the entire operation. He scrambled to translate the situation, ordering her to keep the feed updated. Stay sharp for any anomalies. Secretly, he prayed the situation wouldn't spiral further. He was especially anxious knowing Iwan's connections. A vendetta between Sun Yu and the daughter of a high-ranking clan. The 5 great mage families were now entangled. He stammered in shock. Back in the fray, Yuan launched a full-scale bombardment, attacking both of them without hesitation. Se-Yun desperately tried to erect a barrier against the barrage of bullets. Just as her shield began to fracture, the hero's voice cut through the chaos. I told you to stand behind me, and let him neutralize the threat. In his past life, he had merely watched these crimes unfold silently. He had viewed Yan's future from the sidelines. You must never interfere, for you are just a background character. It didn't matter then. But now I know exactly what kind of trash you are. Useless. Completely ineffective. To rewrite the future, he unleashed a spell of devastating power to retaliate. He showed no mercy. Yan stood frozen, crushed by the overwhelming weight of the magic. Sun Yu offered no quarter. If you had only targeted me, I might have let it slide. That would be understandable. But dragging her into this, you've crossed the line. The moment Yan targeted the girl, his fate was sealed. Consumed by cold fury, he decimated his opponent. He pinned the aggressor to the earth, aiming his weapon at point-blank range. Calmly, he demanded a single valid reason, to let him leave this place alive. The arrogant noble instantly crumbled, groveling in the dirt to admit defeat. I'm an idiot. I swear I will never. How dare you mess with the boss again? When he knelt and begged for forgiveness, Sun Yu almost blew him to pieces right there on the spot. But his companion intervened. It is a waste of precious mana to execute trash. Deciding to alter the plan, he grabbed him. He seized Iwan's hair, threatening the clown. Run to the ends of the earth, because if our paths cross again, I won't hesitate to end you. He nodded frantically. The fool even dared to ask if their battle could be kept under wraps. Can you keep this a secret? I was actually just trying to provoke you. They dismissed him with a glare, and Iwi vanished without a trace, too terrified to look back. And don't forget to keep your mouth shut. Agreed. Back in the monitoring room, Yin informed Hyunsu that the student signals had shifted. They were fighting just now, but suddenly, one fled. He is covered in injuries from head to toe. Back on the training grounds, Yan was experiencing the worst nightmare of his life. First, dealing with the humiliation. Now we are being targeted by an agent of the Force. A secret pursuit. The hero could only hope this was merely a minor brawl between them. Don't disrupt the timeline too much. At that very moment, his senses spiked. Sehun's warm fingers gently grazed the wound on his neck. The girl caught his eye, teasing him with a fleeting, mysterious smile. She couldn't hide her shock. A rank 20 student crushing the elite. He had defeated the class's 5th-ranked prodigy with ease. It proved the entire ranking system was a sham. Flustered, he tried to laugh it off and desperately changed the subject. She once thought being grouped with him was a curse. But now, her eyes softened, grateful for his protection earlier. System notification. Her affection points are rising rapidly. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as she opened up about the past. At the semester's start, she saw him as nothing more than trash. Just another arrogant, ambitious fool seeking attention. But witnessing his true power today shattered that illusion. Curiosity gleamed in her eyes as she asked to know the real him. Who are you really? She chuckled, admitting he was actually quite amusing. Smiling, she signaled for them to move on. He grit his teeth. He still had to prove his worth to the world. But his resolve was interrupted by a massive shadow. A colossal cobra beast erupted from the brush. She froze in sheer terror, but he remained cold as ice, readying his strike. Fear was foreign to him. Yet before he could unleash his skill, a blinding ray of magical light pierced the air, a critical hit. The monster fell instantly. Our main character smirked. Perfect timing. The Academy's golden boy had finally entered the stage. The hero claimed he was merely on patrol, ensuring student safety. He shrugged, acting as if the kill was effortless. With a charming smile, he admitted he was bored. He had been praying for a real S-class threat to spice things up. Was he flirting or just arrogant? She completely ignored the romantic tension, focusing instead on recruiting this powerhouse. She invited him to her family's prestigious guild. Watching from the side, our main character sighed in relief. The main cast was finally united. Now the stage was set. Only one task remained: guide them to the hidden dungeon. It was all part of his master plan. He had maneuvered through the forest specifically for this moment, positioning himself perfectly to orchestrate their fate. Feigning shock, he pointed toward a faint ethereal glow in the distance. What is that? The bait was cast, and they bit. Led by curiosity, they breached the cave entrance. The interior was pristine, but they soon discovered a concealed barrier, a hidden instance. The difficulty was hell tier, but the loot. It promised legendary artifacts beyond imagination. In the previous timeline, the hero and his elite squad cleared this trial through sheer teamwork and grit. That victory, combined with an S-rank weapon drop, cemented his status as a national celebrity. His stock value soared, but the true prize was the awakening of the noble lady's potential. She finally evolved into a true warrior. The main character was certain. This dungeon was the crucible that would forge their destiny and bind their hearts together. He suppressed a wicked grin, waiting for the show to start. But then the hero refused to enter. Disaster struck. "We must follow protocol and call the special forces," the hero insisted. Our main character panicked, desperate to stop him from ruining the plan. While he frantically argued, the girl froze. A whispered plea echoed from the dark depths of the water. Someone was calling her. Hypnotized, she reached for the ominous ripples. She was walking straight into the abyss. Suddenly, the hero sensed bloodlust. An overwhelming malice filled the air. The water erupted, revealing a shadow witch. Her enchantment spell had already taken hold. She was paralyzed, a puppet on strings. Before the men could react, the witch vanished into the void, taking the girl with her. Gone in a puff of black smoke, the timeline had shattered. In the original history, the monsters attacked first. This was wrong. The future was rewriting itself in real time. With the enemy retreating into the dungeon's depths, there was only one option. "We chase her now," the main character roared. But the rigid hero hesitated, still wanting to wait for backup. The main character grabbed him. "If we wait, she dies." He knew the lore. Once captured, the victim is merely a mana battery. The witch would drain her life force until she was a dry husk, a lifeless doll. The clock was ticking toward zero. Finally, the hero gritted his teeth and dove into the darkness. Meanwhile, outside the barrier, the instructor grilled the suspect. They were investigating the assault on a classmate. The student pleaded innocence, but the instructor's eyes were cold and unforgiving. "If you're innocent, why did you flee?" the blonde student stammered, claiming total ignorance of the incident. Fed up with the lies, the instructor placed him in temporary custody. But just then, an urgent report came through. He thought the case was closed. But the radio crackled with terror. "Code red, we have a catastrophic emergency. Students have breached the restricted zone." The instructor scoffed. "Calm down. That dungeon is dormant. It's empty." But then, the sensor alarm screamed. His blood ran cold. The mana reading spiked just minutes ago. The dungeon had awakened. Back inside, the temperature plummeted with every step. The air itself was freezing. The hero shivered his stamina, draining rapidly. "I can't go on." But the main character was ready for this hellish environment. With a smirk, he opened his inventory and pulled out a thick winter coat. He had prepared for every variable from the start. "I came prepared with high-grade thermal gear stashed in my dimensional inventory." It offered perfect resistance against this supernatural cold. When asked how a student could afford such legendary equipment, I simply smirked. Let's just say my recent luck in the stock market was nothing short of divine. But our banter was cut short. A shadow loomed ahead. A girl screaming in agony. Her face twisted in sheer desperation. Sung charged forward instantly. It looked like a rescue mission, but then, shockwaves rippled through the air. He threw a devastating punch straight at the girl's face. He didn't miss. He deflected her hidden attack with terrifying intuition. This wasn't a survivor. The witch had already turned her into a human puppet. Se-Hun moved with mechanical precision. Sunwoo quickly analyzed the battlefield. If they wanted to win, they had to exorcise the demon within. "Listen, witch. If you want to keep your vessel intact, you'd better pray." The old hag laughed, summoning a blizzard of razor-sharp ice to drain their life force. The pressure was suffocating. But fate was on their side. Se-Hun wielded the light attribute, the absolute predator of all things unholy. He was the perfect counter to this undead nightmare. However, there was a catch. The monster was using Sao-Hyun's body as a living shield. One wrong move, and the girl dies. The hero parried the blows, his swordsmanship flawless. But the witch was cunning. She realized he was holding back his true power to protect the hostage. A fatal weakness. The duo stood frozen, their minds racing for a solution. The witch seized that split second of hesitation. She launched a surprise offensive, forcing the hero to retreat behind a thick glacial wall. It felt like a checkmate. They were cornered like rats. But I knew better. Even against the witch of the ice rain, spears of frost rained down like Judgment Day, fueled by infinite mana. Yet they danced through the storm. When asked for a plan, I spoke with absolute calm. "Ignore the puppet. We need to hunt down the core. We had to expose the witch's true form first, find her heart in this chaos." But the battlefield was buried under layers of dense magical snow. Sung hesitated, unsure of his next move. In the previous timeline, I would have just nuked the entire dungeon. But things are different now. I placed my bet on the hero. "Handle this." Se-Hun. Meanwhile, outside the gate, the grim truth was finally revealed. This disaster was caused by the students' foolish egos. Hyunshu realized the gravity of the situation. He had been too arrogant, too hasty. He questioned everything. Is this really worth our lives? But for the blonde agent, it was already too late for regrets. Tears of frustration welled up. The teacher exploded in rage at the agent. You promised they would be safe. The former agent stammered, promising to breach the dungeon from the outside. But everyone knew the truth. Breaking a sealed gate takes time they didn't have. Unless a miracle happened, the students were dead. Their survival now depended entirely on luck. Despair began to spread like a plague. Parents and teachers gathered trembling at the news. A rank B dungeon break. Era ground her teeth, annoyed that her rival was still breathing. All eyes turned to the survivor who had just escaped. What is happening inside? He looked back at the portal, his voice steady. I have absolute faith in Seo Jein. He passed on the message. Tell him to stop holding back. Unleash everything. Back in the abyss, the monster felt it. The atmosphere shifted. The mana in the air began to vibrate violently. She panicked and struck. A cowardly ambush from the shadows. But Sun Wu roared. Forget about the collateral damage. Show me your true potential. Don't hide a single ounce of power. The hero froze. The only time he had ever gone all out was during the Great Demon Invasion. He was terrified. If his friends saw his monstrous strength, would they still look at him the same way, or would they fear him? But I pushed him. Do it. I saw through his insecurity. I know what you are capable of. And that permission changed everything. When he declared he would go full force, the witch cackled. Oh, let's see what you've got, little boy. She had no idea she just signed her death warrant. Sudden pressure crushed the room. His sword was engulfed in a terrifying dark crimson aura. The witch's eyes nearly popped out of her skull. The energy density was off the charts. Mana swirled around his blade like a hurricane. Sun Wu shouted, blow this entire prison to hell if you have to. The witch felt genuine fear for the first time. Survival instinct kicked in. She shrieked and abandoned the girl's body to flee. That was the opening we needed. Got you. Sehun tracked her spirit in midair. A flash of blinding light. He sliced the specter in half with a single magnificent strike. It was over in a heartbeat. Meanwhile, the support team outside. We've only breached 2% of the barrier. The mage reported in despair. Our magic is useless against this seal. It didn't matter how many reinforcements arrived. Hun Wu prepared himself for punishment, accepting his failure as a leader. I was careless, Captain. I sent a student into a death trap. The guilt was eating him alive. But surprisingly, the captain remained stone-faced. Sit down. That boy doesn't need our help. He will walk out of there on his own. Just as Hyunshu questioned his sanity. Boom. The dungeon gate erupted in a pillar of golden light. Is that a boss monster? No. Ara recognized that signature energy, that dazzling aura. It can only be him. Inside the dungeon, the hero stared at his weapon. The blade crumbled into dust. It couldn't withstand the sheer volume of his mana. But in the distance, a new blade stood embedded in the earth, waiting for a master. Take it, I said. You earned it. The hero stepped forward, his hand grasping the hilt of destiny. As the legendary blade rose from the earth, the very air vibrated with power. Even Uncle He stood frozen in awe at the grandeur. But in truth, it was Sun Wu who handed him that glory. An undeniable Sss-Rank artifact. While the so-called main character basked in the rewards from the system, the reality was different. They had defeated the boss together. Yet Sun Wu ignored the notifications. His eyes were locked on Sehun, whose condition was critical. The situation was dire. The witch's curse had ravaged her, draining every ounce of mana from her spiritual core during the brutal clash. She was fading fast. While the hero was busy collecting the spoils of war and celebrating the dungeon's liberation, Sun Wu whispered, how do we save her? But he already knew the answer. In his inventory lay the heart of the ice spirit. It was the only artifact capable of restoring her magical circuits. Not only would she survive, but she would permanently awaken the ice magic skill. The effect was immediate and overwhelming. Her eyes snapped open, blazing with new power. A heavy silence fell as the two men looked at each other. A silent pact was made. Sun Wu grinned, masking his true strength, acting the part of the relieved sidekick. When Sehun asked what happened, confused by her surroundings, the boys spun their tale. You were in the dungeon, they explained. Captured by the boss. The narrative was set. The hero was the savior. Sun Wu added that the hero had crashed in, destroying the beast to save her without a second thought. The girl stared in disbelief. A student her own age had soloed a secret dungeon. It seemed impossible. Moments later, the dungeon gates opened. Sehun looked radiant, her mana overflowing. But before they exited, Sun Wu made his move, intentionally lagging behind. He feigned total exhaustion, pretending to be a burden who couldn't move due to mana depletion. It was a perfect performance. This was the only way to keep his identity safe. While Sehun recovered in the spotlight, the one who truly orchestrated the victory could fade back into the background. He would continue his mission from the shadows. Meanwhile, the legendary green-bladed sword Seyun obtained was analyzed. The results were shocking. It possessed dual S-class attributes. The news of the hero's supposed achievement spread like wildfire, meeting a gale consuming the academy and the world beyond. The gaze of every major guild and world-class figure suddenly locked onto the rising hero. At the same time, justice finally caught up with the villain Iwan. After a ruthless investigation, his crimes were laid bare. Every dirty trick he had pulled over the years was exposed. Sun Wu watched with satisfaction as the trash was taken out. Despite the chaos, the timeline was still flowing correctly. Most importantly, the bond between the hero and Seyun should have solidified. But as fate would have it, the girl in question appeared beside Sun Wu, her voice casual. "What are you thinking so hard about?" She teased playfully, but her eyes were serious. "Thank you, Sun Wu," she knew. The boy with the big mouth tried to play dumb, asking what she meant. Blushing slightly, she revealed she knew who had suggested they enter the dungeon to save her. She knew who had really risked his life against the gang leader. Sun Wu quickly waved his hands, insisting that he was just a bystander, and the hero was her true benefactor. But Seyun's expression shifted. She saw through his humble act. He tried his best to convince her that without the hero, the boss would have been impossible to defeat. The girl just smiled silently, not believing a single word. She had seen the genuine worry in his eyes back then. She decided to let it slide for now. "Fine, have it your way," she seemed to say. Suddenly the system chimed, extra affection points awarded. Her interest in him had spiked. Sun Wu sighed. He realized his plan to be a simple mob character was failing. He resolved to try harder, to remain invisible during the next main event. The scene shifted to the school gym. Stepping inside, Sun Wu felt a rush of joy. He was beaming because his hidden account was loaded. After the dungeon clear, his points had skyrocketed. He immediately opened the shop to purchase a broken passive skill, Secrecy of Evolution. This ability allowed the user to develop special resistances and adapt to any condition. In terms of mechanics, it meant he could become invincible in almost any environment, if he endured it long enough. Just as he equipped the skill, the hero spotted him. "Why are you lurking?" "Around the gym," the hero asked. Sun Wu put on his mask again. "My house is boring. Just wanted to build some bulging muscles." The academy's hero looked calm, believing peace had returned. But the student next to him pointed at the stands. A crowd of fans watched their every move. The hero waved, maintaining his image. Meanwhile, the atmosphere around the training grounds grew heavy. Sun Wu couldn't hide in the hero's shadow forever. Then a chilling rumor reached their ears. The physical education teacher was missing. That man lived in the gym, only leaving for meetings. A student whispered, eyes wide with fear. They found him, or what was left of him. A body had been discovered on the school grounds. It was a husk, dry. Not a single drop of blood left in the veins. Sun Wu felt a cold sweat. This wasn't a normal murder. It was the work of a demon. But the sycophants around the hero immediately started flattering him. "Nothing to worry about," they laughed. "The hero is here to save the academy," they joked, oblivious to the danger. But our protagonist felt a rising anxiety. Demons could mimic anyone. The predator was still hunting within the school walls, watching them. Right now, just then, Park Min-hee stepped into the circle, gently handing a towel to the school's star. As the boys cheered, Sun Wu narrowed his eyes. To the academy students, she was the flawless idol, the goddess everyone worshipped. But that radiant smile was merely a mask, a carefully crafted illusion to deceive the masses. Beneath the surface, she was a monster, a blood-drinking predator lurking in the night. That evening, her master John Hai descended upon her. He spoke calmly of death. He brought news that shattered her world. Her father had been slaughtered by a hunter. Grief turned to rage. She reported her failure to track the targets, frustration boiling over. The master commanded her to stand down. She trembled with fury, forced to watch helplessly. There was no choice but to obey. She swallowed her pride, though her blood demanded vengeance. The master narrowed his eyes. The mouse they hunted was likely the child of prophecy. The boy's recent feats were impossible to ignore. He was clearly the chosen anomaly. He had shattered a high-level barrier with raw power alone. A terrifying potential. She begged for the chance to end him. But the master scoffed at her arrogance. Did she truly believe she could kill a prodigy? She had seen his strength firsthand. It wasn't a question of ability, but of will. She swore to destroy him at any cost. Suddenly the air grew heavy. A high-ranking demon lord Jin materialized from the shadows. He demanded to see the subordinate, who dared to speak of killing the prophecy. Lord Jin offered a devil's bargain, receive his dark power to slaughter the boy. In exchange, her soul would belong to the organization. She accepted the king's command. Meanwhile, in a chaotic dungeon, the main character was traumatizing the local monsters. The beasts fled in terror. His magic control was so precise it was bullying. Beside him, his companion honed her skills. She tried to focus, but her heart raced. She was secretly on cloud 9. To her, this secret training session felt exactly like a date. He had found this hidden dungeon in his past life, a perfect grinding spot for willpower. He glanced at her, curious. What drove her to wield such dangerous power? Her answer was pure. She fought to protect the weak in this unforgiving world. It was the mindset of a true hero. He was surprisingly impressed by her resolve. She confessed her dream to reach the special rank, just like her legendary uncle. He smirked with confidence. Under his tutelage, reaching that height was inevitable. Her face lit up. To her, his promise meant they would spend even more time together. In just months, her rank skyrocketed from 80th to 50th. Her potential was exploding. Everything was proceeding according to his meticulous plan. Suddenly, a notification chimed. Night vision acquired. Now he could finally identify the spy hiding in their midst, Minia. In the original timeline, she was a vengeful ghost who destroyed everything. Her father's death had twisted her fate, but this time he knew the script. He had to strike before the tragedy repeated. A few days later, the spy approached him. It was the perfect opportunity. He cornered her, feigning a romantic interest. The tension was thick. He reached into his pocket and she braced for a weapon. Instead, he pulled out a confession. It was a calculated move in his game of 4D chess. The system pinged. He had unlocked a bonus achievement for the sheer absurdity of it. She looked at him with utter disgust. A clean, brutal rejection. Just as he planned. She masked her murderous intent with polite excuses. But inside, she was screaming. The thought of dating a filthy human made her skin crawl. It was repulsive. He checked his reflection. Was he really that bad? But the trap was already sprung. From the shadows, the real target watched with burning jealousy. The seed was planted. His friend offered condolences, but he just smiled. The magic theory project was complete. As expected, despair crushed him. While he was a prodigy in practical combat, magic theory was an alien language to him. Complex topics were his kryptonite. His primitive brain simply couldn't process the advanced data. He was about to give up when Sun Yu offered a lifeline, a chance to copy the homework. But this salvation came with a price. A small favor. Sun Yu politely requested access to the school's digital bulletin board. By the next morning, the cafeteria was buzzing. The rumor spread like wildfire through the academy. The students couldn't believe their eyes. He had used the piece of the notice board to drop a bombshell. Usually he was invisible to them. But everything went exactly to plan. He attracted the attention of nearly 250 people with a single move. Over the course of one night, he cashed in his favor. He posted a stern warning to the entire male population, a decree forbidding anyone from confessing. He declared his crushing love for the Ice Queen Minia. With a bold face, he claimed she belonged solely to him. Even the instructors were baffled by this display. They didn't expect the youth of today to express love so aggressively. Sao Hun found the spectacle quite amusing. A public marriage proposal. It was ridiculous. Hertzung complained to Ara, shocked that Sun Yu had such peculiar taste in women. Ara dismissed it all as a prank. But jokes aside, Hertzung felt a linger of worry. Sitting nearby, Yang Jun was sweating bullets. He felt nauseous hearing them gossip about the post he had helped create. The entire academy erupted in laughter at the sheer absurdity of it all. Faced with this public humiliation,